So let it be written, so let it be done. This is Tabletop Terrors, a Tabtarian toast. May you mend the first break. May you kill the first snake. And may you conquer everything you undertake. Slanja. Thank you for watching. You're watching a Dragongrin campaign, and I am going to jump right in. The camera moves through a hallway of the Savic family mansion. And you wouldn't believe that this was the mansion of the most powerful criminal family in the Dustmouth. It's in disrepair. It reeks of gaudiness. We hear screams of someone being tortured brutally in the next room. We pass through a thick door and enter into a large room that's decorated fashionably, or at least what would be considered fashionably about a decade ago. The screams of torture get louder. Upon a high-backed chair, in front of a fireplace that hasn't been used in some time, sits Savic Stain, a young, red-haired girl kneels before him, and he has a glass of pristine drinking water. The girl can't be more than 15 or 16. We can't see her face. We pull in close. Now we're on Savic Stain's face as he begins to speak. Another excruciating scream of torture. And he says, "This is a story we've all heard before. It's a story about some people who are put in a really bad situation. The cards didn't fall in a good way, and they had to kill someone to survive. That happens every day in the Dustmouth. But not to my brother. What do you know about the people that killed your father?" Abigail Mullen looks up, and she falters at the mention of her father. Her heart is broken. She has no tears left. Her soul is fractured. Grieving would be too kind of a word for what she's going through after her father, Bart Mullen, was murdered 2 weeks ago up on Broken Peak. Ah! Another tortured scream of agony. Savic comments on it because he can see Abigail's face. "That best is in the other room. It's torture. Terribly painful what we're doing. But we're doing what needs to be done. No matter how much it hurts. We do what needs to be done to survive." Abigail looks terrified. "I'm not looking to hurt you, dear. You have my word. And I've sent the Serpent's Head to take care of the murderers who killed your father in cold blood. They're my best, and they've yet to fail me. Your father will be avenged. My brother will be avenged. Now tell me, what do you know about these folk?" A final tortured scream of release. And the other room is now silent. Abigail speaks, but it's weak. The locals, the people, at first they were angry about the murders. But stories are spreading. Rumors. People are saying that this is a prophecy come true. Some people are even starting to hope. The five, the ones who were crucified, People are saying that they're the only ones who ever escaped that. And her eyes look up at a faded bronze plaque on the wall of the Savic mansion. This plaque has words beautifully engraved on it. These words are infamous in Dustmouth. All of Dragongrin, really. Known as the Epitaph of Light. Supporters of the Dismembered Lord display this phrase proudly. These immortalized words were said by the Dismembered Lord himself. That's how the legend goes. It's a warning to any who would ever try to stand against him. The tarnished plaque reads, "I will destroy all that rise against me, and none who oppose me shall remain. This I swear. I will destroy all that rise against me, and none who oppose me shall remain. This I swear." Savic looks up at the plaque with curiosity and then back to Abigail. The five, they were crucified in the name of the Dismembered Lord, and they remain. Folks have started calling them those that remain. A balding man wearing the bloody garb of the Holific Church emerges from the other room, and he's wiping blood from his hands with a washcloth. "We're done in there, Savic. It was a success, but he was in the most pain I've ever seen." A figure draped in a white burial robe emerges. All but pinholes of white and stained crimson. The balding cleric speaks, and he sort of wipes his brow, and "It was the most difficult resurrection I've ever performed. You're getting the deal of a lifetime." The hooded figure, hands trembling, draws a blood-stained hood back. You would recognize fragments of this man. Once handsome. Now his face horribly disfigured. A dark cavity wreathed in a fresh wound rests where his nose once won. His nose is gone. Directly beneath it is his upper lip, and it has this large chunk missing, exposing the top of his teeth. This is Donovan Stain reborn. He's barely conscious as this backroom cleric props him up. Savic looks at his brother, and then he looks down at Abigail, and he says, "Tell him what you told me." Impossibly, Donovan fights to speak through the pain. And through his deformity, he says, "I heard her. And those that remain will not remain for long." Smash cut to black. Welcome to Those That Remain, a Dragongrin campaign brought to you by Tabletop Terrors. Let's do some introductions. Barker, why don't you tell me who your character is a little bit, who you're playing, and maybe a little bit about your channel or anything else you want to kind of drop in there.
Anything I want to drop in here. The power is palpable in my room. I can say anything I want. I've been given the check. But I will, I'll just talk about my character a little bit. I'm playing Jeremiah Diggs, who is an interesting sort. He once found himself under the employ of kind of the big bad in this area, the Dismembered Lord. And now he found his, maybe perhaps his only shot for the perfect life, completely fleeting in the world of Dragongrin. You know, the wife and the child and the fence, but the facade was shattered by the dismembered lord's minions, who Jeremiah used to be among, and now he finds himself traveling with these companions, each with their own story to be told. But I think the main thing about Jeremiah is his son is missing, and he's being very, very, almost absurdly calm about it. It's unrealistically calm, but he is obviously just a very patient man. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and I'm really excited for this game. Tim, thanks.
Rock and roll. James.
Hello, my name is James, and today I will be playing Randolph Rudy, the human wizard, an old and somewhat cavalier mage from a place called Thandar, very far away from the Dustmouth. While a frail old man with sort of a withered staff, there seems to be more to him than meets the eye. And yeah, I am also very excited. One thing I'm not excited for and will look forward to in the future is playing a game the night that we lose an hour. Just throwing that out there. That's not going to happen again. But I am still very excited for this game.
Awesome, man. Mr. Matt Click.
Hey guys, I'm Matt. I run the channel A Fistful of Dice, and tonight I'm playing Ephraim Seidler. He is a young sort of rogue type. He appears human, but there's something a little odd about him, something that he doesn't quite understand himself. He's just coming into some magical power of his own that is somewhat uncontrollable, but he's learning how to control it. He has somewhat of a checkered past with his mother having fought during Lightfall and being on the losing end of that. So I'm really excited for the game, and I'm terrified that Donovan is alive again because I was the one that dealt the killing blow. So this should be interesting. I'm sure he remembers that quite vividly.
Yes, he does. And Nate.
Yeah, my name is Nate. I run the YouTube channel WASD20, and tonight I am playing Garrick Braunleaf, who is he's the son of a miller, and he is young and kind of has a wanderlust in him, and he happens to have reached out while being executed to a being that he had met before, who saved him from his death now, and he owes this being, this beautiful woman, who also now has this sinister servant who is directing me. So Garrick is rather tormented about all of this, and has some new powers as well.
Awesome. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Oh, what's that?
I just want to mention really quickly that I am in Epitaph right now because Rob Coletta from Performance Check said he was going to make Epitaph and watch the game, and I said that I would as well. So I'm currently inside Epitaph eating boneless wings and playing D&D. So it's the fat nerd's dream right now. I'm loving it.
I also want to point out that this has started a surge of pillow forts because Rob is in a pillow fort, Matt is in a pillow fort, and several people in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group are posting pictures of them in pillow forts. So maybe that's the new Dragongrin game tradition, is we make pillow forts. I think I got to up my pillow fort game next time and be a part of this.
One thing I want to throw out there before we get started, if that's okay, is I think tonight there's been another game scheduled because none of us communicate with each other before scheduling a game. And if you're watching us tonight, awesome. But tomorrow, when you get the time, head on over. I don't know if it's at Mike the Piper. I don't know if it's Mike Lasham that's running it or Lloyd Collins at the Jarl DM. But somebody's running a brand new Star Wars game. So definitely check that out tomorrow. And thanks, everybody, again, for tuning in.
Absolutely. The door of this shack is kicked in as the four of you are heaving Kathleen's body onto a dusty old table. There's an arrow in her eye, and she has the look of someone who's gone. She has the look of someone who's dead, but you can't tell. And it's sickening that there isn't more blood. It's an odd wound. But as you drop her body on this table, you can tell that if she is going to live, it's going to take some doing. The attackers who were fighting you were gone just as quickly as they fired. They seem to have scattered away. So they're still about, but you're not exactly sure where.
I think Diggs's low guttural voice would look to Rudy and or any of the other more quick members of the party and say something like, see if you can't chase one of them down, as he's struggling to figure out if there's anything that can be done to save her.
And yeah, Rudy would certainly look back at you sort of like, yeah, that seems like a great idea, everybody else. But looking at Kathleen and what happened, he wouldn't be hurrying to try and help her. He would see the wound that she has. He would understand what happened. And even knowing that, she was a generally virile young person, it's unlikely that she's coming back from that without great help. And that's never been the sort of thing that he's done. And the other companions that he's with don't immediately strike him as the surgeon or, magical healing type. So he has resigned himself to Kathleen certainly being dead, and is more sort of accepting that fact in Dragongrin.
Garrick would kind of hold out his staff and would just kind of mutter under his breath, You must help her. You must help her. You must.
Ephraim is sort of tucked into the corner with his back to the wall, his hands just shaking, and he's kind of like almost pacing back and forth, his hands over his face, rocking slightly, looking at Kathleen, looking at the arrow that went through her eye and certainly pierced her skull and went into her brain. And he's sort of at a loss for words. And as Diggs says, somebody needs to go after him, he sort of immediately takes that chance to leave the room and just goes out the door as quickly as possible, loosening his short sword in its sheath, and just begins kind of frantically looking around. He knows where the arrow came from, but they didn't see anyone, and he's sort of, fruitlessly searching for whoever did this.
So you're probably going to get to this, but I feel like maybe I missed something or I don't remember. It's been a while since we played. Where are we? I remember having come out of the other side of that sort of pass that we were in. Kathleen died. Boom. What is there anything I can do? Can I sit down? Can I rub my feet? I don't know. Did we get a short rest? I don't think I have any hit points left.
You may sit down and rub your feet, especially since you are wearing probably stolen boots that don't fit you. You crook of a dirtbag maid. No. So yes, I think the only person who would really know kind of where you were would be Ephraim, because everyone's sort of away from their neck of the woods. But I think everyone knows the area well enough that you would know the region you're in. You're heading toward Creaking Tree, but you're in the outskirts of a mining town known as Blint. So I think you would have you might be able to tell that. But
I meant more like literally, like in my mind, we walked out of this place, Kathleen died, and then like you said, we put it on our table. Are we in like a house? Is it like
you're in a shack. So using techniques like film or movie, instead of narrating the middle or having you start right where she gets shot in the eye, it's door opens up and you're in the outskirts of this town. Is a bit of a ghost town. Imagine like a Western sort of where there is definitely like streets, but there's tumbleweeds. There's not a lot of people or activity. This town of Blint it's grown smaller and smaller because the iron that they're mining there is drying up essentially. So you're in a shack, but I'll let you kind of narrate where you are or what's in it, but you're just in the first like fight or flight response. I imagine maybe Diggs picked her up, or all four of you kind of heft her onto this table. Just
I was mostly making sure like where the sight lines are covered, basically. Like we're not outside. Like, oh man, I hope those guys don't shoot the rest of us. So yeah, basically I was just like, as long as we're inside, I'm good. I'd stay away from windows and probably take a chance to sit down. Like I said, I was down to very low hit points based on what this character sheet says. So
yeah. And mechanically speaking, you guys have not had any kind of short rest. You had, you fought away the spider. You come rushing out. Kathleen was shot in the eye with the arrow and is possibly dead, maybe not. But that is, you're still right where you were, still banged up.
That was a really good Kathleen impression you did. Like this.
Yeah, you're probably still sweating from trying to kill that spider.
I think after maybe a moment will pass when silence kind of falls, and Kathleen is dead, and Jeremiah pulls the arrow out, and it makes a horrifying sound, but it's over very quickly.
And it's unfortunate, and I hate to have to describe it this way, but I think that's when the blood starts flowing, unfortunately. It's the look of someone who's dead. She makes no response. Her head is limp. And you pull out the arrow fairly easily. And I think the only movement at that point in the shack would probably be Rudy rubbing his feet and the unfortunate drip of blood from the table.
And as old as Rudy is, and as much as he's seen, he would probably, as horrifying as the sound is, it would feel a little too familiar to him. Just the whole thing, both the sound and the limpness, like you said, he can absolutely tell that there is no coming back from this, even if they had someone immediately on hand. And his realization of that bothers him, but he knows there's not much he can do about it.
Can you use your magic to dig yourself a hole? And he just kind of points to the ground in this corner of this room, then looks back to Kathleen, stone cold.
Garrick is in the corner, puking.
Soft times make soft people.
Ephraim outside does a quick scan, but he knows that it's useless. And he sort of is pacing outside. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do in this situation? And he sort of remembers something. And he brings his satchel around and starts rummaging around in it, tossing out, various unimportant, mundane things. And then he brings out this book. And he'll kind of run inside, and he just throws the book in Rudy's lap. Is that a spell book? Rudy, is that a spell book? Does it have something that will help?
And Rudy would look through this book, and I'm not entirely sure what he would see, but if it is a spell book, I guess he would tell you that yes, it is.
So this book in your hands, Rudy, I think you'd remember it because you took notice of it when you were being crucified. This is the same book that Donovan Stain was holding. And, in the middle of your lap, you can even probably see some of the scrawlings, these neat architectural letters that he made with that little graphite pencil. And so you can even see some notes and things like that scrawled along the pages. But this book is very old. It's gorgeous. And it sort of hurts you a bit to see that someone has written all through the margins.
So Rudy would say, not a spell book as such, though I'm sure some things in here could be used to conjure terrible, terrible things. But, well, let's just say it's not helping us, though. And he would go to sort of like, not deftly necessarily, but nonchalantly, like put it in his bag. Like, this isn't really going to help us. Like, oh, but thanks. Appreciate that. You know, like if nobody else is like trying to look through it, like, yeah, definitely we're gonna hang on to it, but no, it's not what you think. Don't worry about it.
And in any other circumstance, Ephraim would probably protest. He's used to holding on to his belongings for dear life in his life, but seeing you put it away, he doesn't even really notice. He just kind of slumps against the wall and slides down to sort of a seated position and just looks at the pool of blood that is forming underneath this table that Kathleen is laid out on. So there's nothing we can do. She's gone.
That's what happens to people.
And he kind of looks at these and goes, I know. But
is anybody
we've never had a wizard with us before.
Oh, sorry. So he would. Who has a bow in our party?
I think maybe she did.
Yeah, Kathleen did.
Yeah, that's. I thought so. I didn't.
I don't think anyone else did.
But
I have a hand crossbow, but not a bow.
Diggs would kind of nod at that, the comment about the wizard, and then look towards Rudy and hand him just this blood-covered bow arrow that just kind of seeps into your hands immediately when you take it, as if to say, all right, well, here's the baton for you. You know, you take charge. And he walks out the same way Ephraim did earlier, just to take an examination of the surroundings.
And Rudy would sort of, you guys a little bit like, went back and forth, and Rudy would, after there was that lull and you began walking out, he would say, he would say, well, there's nothing we can do for the girl, but we can certainly try and figure out where this arrow came from. And he would, you guys aren't used to seeing wizards based on what I can hear, and knowing that, he would kind of play it up and like use mage hand to make this arrow float in front of him and kind of spin around and like kind of look at it, and try and see if there was anything to make it clear what this might have been. Maybe there's a little bit of red in the, I forgot what that's called, the feathers at the end. That's like, oh, this is of the so-and-sos, or, a lot of goblins often use this type of thing, fletching, yeah. And so basically he would examine it for any marks, or even just to see, hey, is this a really, like just a rock lashed like a stick, or is this a barbed arrow, or is this just kind of getting the lay of the land here? What are we up against?
It's a well-made arrow. And I don't know how much you would know about that specifically, but since you're looking at its make, you can tell this is not a rock lashed on a stick. This looks like an arrow that was sharpened to kill in the first strike. So this also doesn't just look like a standard arrow you could probably get at a vendor in town. This looks like, that Jean-Claude Van Damme hard target arrow that's got all the, this looks like a killing arrow, probably by created by or made for an assassin, a bounty hunter. Probably not a bounty hunter, though, because this was a murdering arrow.
Yeah, and just based on what he's seeing there, and based on the based on what this person did, the idea that you come out of this relatively not really safe place. Obviously, there was a spider. This is not like a pass people come in and out of a lot. Maybe people were waiting for us. Basically, Rudy kind of starts up a conversation almost with himself, like, well, they only killed one of us, and they weren't looking for a fight, clearly, as they ran off. I'm not sure if that says something for us or something for them, but, well, they must have had a reason. They weren't robbing us. He kind of goes through all of these possibilities, just kind of trying to see what might catch somebody's interest, but just throwing bits of things out there like, yeah, this is kind of where we're at, but we can't do anything about it now.
It's got to be someone that just wants us dead. There's no way that someone would just kill Kathleen and not try and steal our stuff or kill the rest of us. This was a targeted attack. Who wants us dead, though? Who cares?
Well, it wasn't too long ago. We were up on those crosses. So there's clearly somebody that wants us dead. Well, that should come as no surprise. Plenty of people want me dead, but such a young girl, I really can't even imagine.
It must have been someone acting alone. Otherwise, why are the rest of us still here? They must have hit and then fled the scene. But what are we going to do with the body?
We should bury it. We owe her that much. You know, I didn't know her any better than you all did, but she helped us get off those crosses and helped us get as far as we have, all the same. So we should bury her.
Indeed. I'll carry the body.
Is
I'll
it?
help you.
Was it light out? I wasn't entirely sure.
I believe so. I would say it's probably a couple hours from dark, you know? And the reason why I chose that is because I think that that's more terrifying in Dragongrin, that this didn't happen under cover of night. It's like, nah, it's daytime. We just finished lunch. And
There was a daytime murder, yeah.
It's like 2 on a Thursday, and Kathleen got shot in the eye with an arrow.
That's
exactly. Turn around, Kathleen.
So basically, you know, Rudy would remind everyone that it is getting dark soon, and he would be a little nervous to be going back outside. You know, not necessarily like agoraphobic, but like paranoid, like looking outside, like, hey, an arrow could go into my eye at any moment. And so he would agree that, you know, we should bury her, but he would say we can either have just someone watch or do it at night. I can't really think of a safe way to do it, but I've never really been one for burying bodies.
Wasn't there isn't there still kind of like a cave system nearby with where we could that we left so we could go, and I think it's near enough so where we could go to kind of that last passage and bury her indoors inside the cave?
Sure. So essentially you've come out of this this structure that was carved into the caves by
yes,
the
yeah, that's what I meant,
so
system.
there would be, I would say there would probably be that sort of, you know, a couple of pathways out of there. So you could choose any of those areas that had soft enough earth to do it.
Okay. I imagine that's exactly what Diggs would go to do, and that anyone who wanted to follow him to help would only speed up the process.
And so at this point, Rudy, you would see a sort of a pained look on his face, a look that you are probably used to seeing in Dragongrin, but otherwise would not see very often. And he would look to the few of you, and you'd see that he wants to say something, but he can't really get it out. And finally, he spits it out. He says, he actually looks down at the stolen shoes, the shoes that he stole from someone after being crucified, and looks at the rest of you and says, I'm sorry to be the one to bring this up, but maybe we should take anything of value from her now. I mean, it's not every day you'll come across a weapon or a few arrows even. I'm sorry if that's insensitive, but she won't be using them.
No, it's not insensitive. And Ephraim will kind of absently put his hand on his mother's sword, another weapon of a dead woman, and he'll just kind of nod at Kathleen and say, she wouldn't want it to go to waste anyway.
And so Rudy would help do that, basically. Just, you know, kind of look around, grab her, the major stuff. He wouldn't be like taking her armor and like, oh, I need her shoes, but any, you know, her arrows and her quiver and maybe any rations or food or anything that would easily be able to just throw in my bag or like split between us, but not necessarily, like I said, we're not stripping her naked.
I feel like shoes would be fair game, though. I'm just going to throw that out there as an ally of Kathleen. I think shoes are fair game in Dragongrin.
That's reasonable. No, that's fair.
This is Vietnam.
It might be a better fit for Rudy's tiny feet than those big clogs he's been.
Yeah, than the Uggs he's been walking around.
So, and I don't do this or say this to be sadistic, but to me, I feel like the tone and the theme of this campaign is kind of the small moments and some of the things you have to do to survive in Dragongrin. So, you know, you approach the body to search it, and you're looking at essentially this hollow, dark crimson eye the look of someone who's not sleeping, someone who's dead. How do you go about searching the body? And you don't have to go too specifically, but I just want to really, these hard moments, I want to just kind of take a minute here and just say, okay, you're searching a dead body of someone that was just with you because you need to. But what does that feel like?
So specifically, Rudy would, if she had, say, a small knapsack, he would take that and sort of set it aside to go through later. And he would take her arrows, which I imagine would be in a quiver, her bow, I think she had, and he would kind of put it around himself or offer it to someone, but kind of take her bow off. And then he would look for any pouches around her waist, like if there's gold or anything of value. But beyond that, he would be, that would be it, basically. Just, the main, like, major things, like if somebody was, somebody finds her or digs her up, or I don't know, what are they going to find? It would just be sort of a cursory search of stuff like that.
And I imagine that when you get to her canteen, you're especially like, oh yeah, like we're going to need this, especially if anyone else saw this as well. It's like, yeah. Exactly.
And I imagine she probably has a torch or two, or, whatever comes in like the explorer's pack, just like some rope or whatever it is. Just that, Rudy will have a second knapsack, or like you said, give it to someone else, maybe to heft. But I imagine most of her stuff would be there. Beyond that, he wouldn't worry about it.
Sure. And as you complete that task, Diggs, you mentioned you were going to go ahead and bury her. Describe to me what it looks like as you have to hoist her up. You have to pick her up off this table. I mean, how do you do that?
One hand. I mean, this is basically all he's done is haul stuff for his entire life. And did you mention putting her on the table? Is she still on the table, or are we at the point?
I would imagine she's still on the table, and he's kind of like, this single table in the middle of this room in his shack. And she would, so she's just laying there. She's been searched.
Diggs is accustomed to taking what's useful from former companions. This isn't something that is strange to him, and I don't think it's strange to many people. And so he is accustomed to going up and taking one item. And I'm just going to assume that Kathleen had some fingerless gloves. I don't know, as an archer, maybe nothing that helps him or anything, but something that might keep him warm. And so he'll take them off, and he will kind of hold Kathleen's hand in his two hands for a moment, and he'll mutter some words. He mutters, "There's no such thing as death if we've become what we've lost." And he will put down her hands and fasten his gloves and move on.
And I think Ephraim and Garrick, you said you were going to try to kind of help, and you guys can square this away. I imagine that Diggs goes to scoop her up one-handed, so you'd have to probably get in there pretty quick.
Yeah, and I imagine Garrick kind of, goes behind Diggs and like tries to help with her legs, but realizes like, this guy is already carrying her. So I kind of hold on to her legs for a minute and then just realize this is awkward, and just kind of let him walk off, and I just kind of stand there and watch.
Yeah, I sort of do that awkward, like helping a friend move, and they pick up something really heavy, and you kind of rush forward to try and help, but they already have it. And so I sort of just do like a spotting thing where I'm helping Diggs make sure that he's not banging her head on the door jamb and stuff as we're going out of the shack.
And assuming, you mentioned we're sort of on the outskirts of a mining town, and would there be a shovel or two nearby? Like a pickaxe, a shovel, something to help us? Or
Sure. In fact, I'm starting to think this is maybe a tool shed. So there's like just some implements on the walls, like just leaning up against them, dusty, haven't been used in a while.
So Rudy would grab anything that would help to dig if they need to. So, any sort of things like shovels or anything like a pickaxe or just something to move some dirt around. He'd grab like a handful and follow them, knowing that they kind of have that coverage. Again, especially once they leave this area, he would very much be nervous and paranoid, just looking around, like knowing, the next arrow could be for him or someone else.
So knowing that there were people who mean you harm lurking, I just want to know the order in which you're going outside that door and how you're doing that as well.
So I imagine that Diggs and Ephraim and Garrick are probably going out first because they're sort of, all helping carry the body. And then I imagine Rudy's bringing up the rear. Ephraim will sort of, since it seems like Diggs is holding most of the weight of Kathleen, Ephraim will keep an eye out. He's one of the more perceptive members of the party. And so he'll sort of keep an eye out. It is getting dark though. So his eyes, are not as sharp as they should be, but he's definitely a little more paranoid than he would normally be, searching around, listening for any strange sounds and also any silence. If he doesn't hear any birds or wildlife, that would definitely be an indicator that someone's sneaking around nearby as well.
And oddly, you guys didn't notice, but now you do. The Vulturas, these carnivorous birds that are hovering overhead, it's almost like they have a sixth sense for when someone's dead or soon to be dead in Dragongrin. So if you see the Vulturas circling, and they're starting to sort of close in on this circle, seeing if they can get a bite of whatever you're holding there.
And Garrick would probably be right behind Diggs, and just kind of, I'm pounding my staff as I'm walking. I'm just, the shock has kind of worn off, and now I'm upset.
So, I have minor illusion as a cantrip, and I don't do anything in combat, so this is kind of my time to shine. And it's an action, I can do it. It's 30 feet. It lasts for a minute. And basically it can be a sound or an object, but not both. That can't be more than a 5-foot cube. I want to, if possible, this is maybe a stretch. This is a hopefully the DM will let me do this. I want to make it look like we are with a war maker. I want to make it look, it won't make any sound, but basically there's a war maker walking with us, just like this, this thing that's walking, and just kind of like an investigation check, reveals that it's fake, or if somebody touches it, or if they realize it doesn't make sound, basically. But I kind of just wanted to be like, yeah, we all walk out of this thing with this war maker, this, maybe a smaller one, like a humanoid one.
I will totally allow that if you describe what it looks like when Rudy casts minor illusion to make a war maker.
So as he's walking, like they said, they were, I imagine they all filter out, and Rudy has this idea as, the door is about to close behind them. And so he kind of whispers the words, and he, he's holding like a handful of dirt, just really dirty, and like these are dusty old tools. And he kind of, in his own little way, whispers, the words or whatever. And as though it walked from the door behind him, just almost silently, a war maker is there. And if nobody in front of us, like if none of my party members look back, they won't hear anything happen except for maybe a mumbling under my breath. But if they do turn around, they'll just see one.
And much like, almost like a glitch in a video game where things can pass through objects, when the war maker walks out of the door, it's larger than the door frame. So it sort of just like walks out of the door as though it's phasing through it. And I imagine that this war maker looks pretty darn close for you having seen it so far away. When they were fighting in Aberwith, and you kind of saw that all happening up on Broken Peak. So there are like little bits that maybe intersect in weird ways, or things that wouldn't quite work, but from a distance, especially in this heat with a little bit of haze, it's pretty legit.
Yeah, it's like a rough sketch of a war maker. Like up close, you're like, that's just shapes. But from far away, you're like, oh yeah, I could see it.
And if you all are not going to do anything else in particular, you can find a reasonable alcove so that you wouldn't be, out in the open with people on higher ground around you, to where you could probably take care of digging this hole. So how deep are you going to dig this? Is this a shallow grave, just kind of, lip service, or, what are we doing?
Ephraim would probably urge the rest of the party to dig it, as deep as you would dig a grave that you don't want disturbed. There's plenty of predators around here, and I mean, we just saw the Vultura up ahead. We don't want this grave to be dug up. we don't want it to be disturbed. And I think we would take the time to dig as deep a grave as possible, keeping a lookout while we do so. And as we're sort of digging it, I imagine that we're sort of taking shifts, maybe 2 of us working at a time with 2 of us keeping a lookout. And Ephraim would be sort of digging, and he leans on the shovel a bit and says, she was looking for her sister, right?
Yes, I believe so. Maybe she was in Aberwith? Oh, my mind isn't what it used to be, but yes, she was looking for a family.
Maybe we should try and find them at some point. I'm not saying we go out of our way or anything, but I don't know. I think we owe it to her to let her family know that, well, she wasn't crucified, but she's not around anymore.
Yes, I agree. And I think the same thing. Like you said, taking shifts. There's probably one good shovel and one like really bad one, and so it's kind of like one person stuck with it. But there are basically, there are 4 of us, but there are 3 of us digging the graves because Rudy kind of wouldn't be. But at some point, nearing the end, I think if somebody got tired, Rudy would kind of take a shovel, surprisingly from one of them. Maybe not expecting. I don't know if you guys would have expected Rudy to dig, but sort of belying his frail and old look, he would, just as one of you, dig his portion of this grave, basically.
And Garrick would probably start looking also for some big stones around, maybe to put on top, just kind of, I don't know, I'm just thinking to be safe. Keep the Volturas off, make sure nothing can even try to dig up this spot. So I imagine I would just be kind of dragging some big boulders over if I can find any.
And I think at that point too, Garrick would sort of show his strength. That's been, I don't know. I imagine that you're sort of a big dude, but we haven't seen many feats of strength. But, as I see you kind of pounding the staff, and like you said, you're just kind of frustrated. So you're lifting rocks that look a little larger than you should be, but you're doing it with relative ease. And you're able to find some loose ones and sort of, I even maybe imagine that there's one in particular that you just want. It's like you want to win today. You want something. You just want, so there's this rock that's kind of stuck and you just, and you finally pull it out, and it's probably the one that you put on the center to kind of just finish it off.
Yeah, exactly.
And as the stone finalizes the grave, your aching hands, all of you, except for Diggs, who was smart enough to wear those fingerless gloves. The sun is beginning to set in the dust mouth on the edges of the town of Blint.
As the stone is laid and maybe we start to sort of turn and walk away, Ephraim would stop for a moment and turn around, and he would just put a hand on that last stone that Garrick put there, and he would say, I didn't know her very well, but at the same time, I think we all know each other better than most because we've been through a lot the last few days. She was loyal. She was quick. She shot straight and true with that bow. And family was really important to her. So this is where we leave you, Kathleen. And depending on what you believe, we might see you again someday. All right, that's it. I just wanted to say a few things. And Ephraim will sort of like quickly wipe away, the mist from his eyes. All right, we got to get somewhere. Even that shack that we were just in, it's getting dark. And apparently there's people trying to kill us.
And sort of at the end of your little eulogy, Rudy would mumble almost to himself, reminding himself yet again, well, it's more than most in this land get. So it goes, I suppose. And then he would agree with you that he is absolutely ready to go somewhere where he can maybe feel a little bit safer, even if it's if we could make it into the town. But yeah, he's down.
Go ahead, Garrett.
No, you go.
Before the last gesture that Diggs will make is engraving a simple K on, unless her name started with, unless it was C, I don't know, whichever letter in the K, yeah, as her epitaph on this kind of raw tombstone that we've created, and he'll walk off.
And Garrick is probably the last to get up. He's sitting actually in the dirt. He's exhausted from carrying stones that were too big and just kind of taking out his anger in that way. And he's actually got his head down, kind of between his legs as his knees are up in the air, and he's crying. He's young. He hasn't seen things like this before. I mean, he's seen as much as people have seen in Dragongrin, which is a fair amount, but he quickly wipes away his tears and gets up.
And as you sort of move to start finding another place of shelter, you see that someone has gotten close enough to be leveling a crossbow at you. And they say, What are you doing here? Hey, what are you doing here? And Ephraim, you immediately recognize this voice. And it's from a place you can't quite place. You just, and so you're immediately recognizing this voice. And then you see this red hair, this mop top. And you start to recognize this. And this big grin comes over this person's face. And you see a chipped front tooth. And you recognize this person who's leveling a crossbow at you shakily as Clancy, one of your childhood friends from Creaking Tree. And he says, Ephraim? Ephraim, is that you?
Clance. Holy hell, man. Yeah, it's me. What are you doing out here?
What are you doing out here? And you look down and he's wearing the gray garb, the pretty standard issue gray garb of a Blint miner or guardsman or anyone who's a worker in Blint wears this just awful dull layers of gray, just patchwork and faded. And you see that he's wearing this, and you guys hate Blint. Blint is the Shelbyville to Springfield. It's like if you live in Creaking Tree, so it's blowing your mind right now that he is wearing the uniform. Dude has bought in.
Oh, and I would walk up and kind of like fluff his shirt a little bit. Oh, Clance, no. Oh, man. You're a Blinter, huh? Oh.
Things are different, man. Things are different in Creaking Tree. Yeah, man, we got a lot to catch up on. What are you doing out here?
Well, that's also a long story, and he'll kind of look back. Sorry, everyone. This is Clancy. Clancy, this is Rudy. It's Garrick there, and the big one is Diggs.
Right.
And listen, do you have a place that we could stay? Anything, just ground to sleep on with walls would be preferable.
Yeah. Rudy would sort of interject to answer his question of what we were doing out here, kind of super playing up the old man. He'd say, "Yes, it's been a very long day of bird watching for us." And he'd kind of point up to if the vultures are, still maybe they've left already, but if there are any birds around, like just totally like senile old man in it.
I love it. I imagine everyone just looks at you, Rudy, like bird watching, and maybe they're the only birds in the sky. Maybe are vultures of people in the distance that we killed or something. Like, yeah.
And Ephraim is sort of standing there. He's got his sword. His hands are dirty and bloody from digging and picking up rocks, and sweat is just shining on his forehead. And he says, "Yeah, bird watching is the thing that we were doing, Clance. But yeah, we would love a place to crash tonight if you have something. We don't want to put you out."
Yeah, listen, this is the outskirts, man. I gotta walk up and down here all day. I actually usually sleep on this side of town. It's fairly abandoned. I actually took over a tavern around here, and
No kidding.
yeah, it's just there, and I stay there. You guys should come there. There's no one else there. No one comes around here. You remember? Well, I mean, when we got up to trouble, we would always go to Rupert's quarry.
Yeah.
That's the place. I'm the guy now.
Oh man.
I sleep in Rupert's quarry.
You sleep in Rupert's quarry.
Yeah.
Do they
Rupert's
still
not there
have-
anymore.
Well, I don't think Rupert would let you in there. Do they still have the bottles of that green stuff, and we could never figure out what it was, but it would always just lay us out?
Dude, they did. I've got like this much of one left. Come on. I'll treat you and your friends.
I could use some. Yeah.
Yeah.
As this sort of plays out, and he's about to start walking, and I'm not sure what the rest are going to do. Rudy would, a little too spryly, kind of jog up to Diggs and Ephraim, and he would kind of, as he was like walking, and as this Blintzman, I forgot his name already, Clancy is walking away, he would kind of grab Ephraim's arm and hold him and give him a look like, "Hey man, we just got crucified. This seems a little too good to be true." He would just sort of give you a look like, yeah.
And Ephraim, sort of overcome with joy at seeing a familiar face, someone from his past, someone that's not just covered in blood and dirt, he would sort of, the smile would diminish a little bit on his face, and he'd say, "Oh, Clance, is there anyone else there, or is it just you? Do you have any other guests there?"
Oh, it's me. It'll be me for at least till tomorrow afternoon, depending when the captain comes by. I got to give a report, and yeah, I'm one of the guards.
You're a guard.
Listen, man, things aren't like they were. Things got different when you left. We all had to do what we had to do, man. It's not the same in Creaking Tree. I had to get out of there. But yeah, man, but nobody's there, dude. It's just
okay. Yeah. We'll lead the way then, and I'll sort of let him take a few paces forward, and then I'll turn around to Rudy and I'll say, I'll keep an eye on him. I owe this guy. He owes me. I'll keep an eye on him.
And Rudy would nod, and I currently am at a loss for like the exact thing he would say, but he would say a very short, succinct, maybe thing that a lot of people say in Dragongrin, like, "You know how life is. Like, just remember how life is. Like, you know how the dismembered lord works, or just like, listen, stuff sucks. Just remember that, please, before you're like, oh yeah, this guy has a tavern he found."
I think the phrase is literally stuff sucks.
Stuff sucks. But it's like some sort of one step at a time type of adage or something like that.
Yeah, where it's like, hey, just remember that when somebody tells you they just found a tavern, maybe don't just follow him. Like, oh, he's got candy in his van. Like, what are we doing?
And I think the phrase, maybe if you're cool with it, would be "bleak storms on a sunny day."
Yeah, and it would be something like very cryptic like that, where he would just say it to Ephraim, like, "Hey, just don't forget, all right? Like, I'm following you. I trust you. That's cool, but just please, bleak storms on a sunny day, man."
Yeah, and Ephraim is like, he likes to come off as pretty hard, but at the end of the day, he's a 20-year-old guy that just seeing one of his childhood friends for the first time in several years, and so that smile sort of diminishes a little bit, and he sort of stares a little bit more resolutely at Clancy's back. Says, "Yeah, right. Yep. No, I got it. Don't worry."
Thing about bird watching, as they're walking with the friend, maybe Diggs might pull away a little bit and talk with Rudy or Ephraim, or Garrick if you're nearby, but he would say, "Is the nocturnal birds are the hardest to track. You can't see them unless it's day, so you have to track them all through the night." And he looks to everybody and says, "And you find out where they sleep." And then he looks to Ephraim's friend, and he says, looks back to Rudy and repeats the words that he said, "Bleak storms on a sunny day."
And Rudy would kind of like nod, like, glad you guys are getting it, because we're not all super close. It's been like 3 days. And Rudy's like, I'm glad these guys are at least a little bit on the level. But in the back of his mind, he thinks maybe this was all a trap for me. But he, suppresses that thought.
I guess Diggs is probably something like, I'm happy you found your friend from the 10-year anniversary from your high school graduation. That's nice and everything. But there's other things at stake. Go ahead, Nate. Sorry.
And as it's kind of getting dark, Garrick realizes after Diggs says this, he realizes that it's getting really dark, and yet I can see just fine. I'm not saying this; I'm just noticing this, and I kind of blink. And for one of those blinks, I see a shadow in the forest, in a tree that looks like perhaps a familiar shadow. And I think I hear a cackle for a moment, and I realize I can really see well here.
In fact, it's almost as though the scarce vegetation that is around here, for you, almost sort of illuminates more than it would, and sort of kind of lights the world in this beautiful but a little sickening sort of pale green in some places. And you can see that Clancy knows the area, and he's not stupid, but he's also not super tactical. So he's kind of like waving you guys on, and this is like I said, it's a bit of a deserted town. So he's kind of taking you up alleyways and across this porch and maybe over this and sort of doing this, that, and the other thing. And Ephraim spent enough time sowing his wild oats in Blint to kind of know, that place closed down. Oh, that's a bummer. I loved eating there. And so as you kind of go through, you come to the back door of this place, this Rupert's Quarry. And, Clancy is like, come on. And he kind of opens the door and just walks right in.
And Ephraim would sort of peek inside and just kind of take a cursory glance. And, having not been here for several years, it's a bit of a trip seeing this place and also seeing it empty and closed down. And I imagine maybe the windows are boarded up and stuff. And he sort of just like peeks inside, and he sort of glances back at his friends and just kind of gives them a curt nod, like, seems okay. And he'll walk in and just kind of have his hands like looped into his belt, sort of strolling around, taking in the sight, the smell of this place.
And it's large for the town, fairly large. And it has the look of a place that one person lives in. So one area is kind of dusted off or kept, fairly clean. Only one table has the chairs down, and it looks like there's kind of a dirty plate on it. But most of the rest of this place, it's a pretty big square layout, very rustic, made out of wood, a big, robust bar, tables surround it. There's even a second level. It's almost like a log cabin is really what it's like. And as far as the smell of the place, it's musty, not lived in. And it kind of smells like some dried old hooch.
Is it lit at all? Is there a fire, or there are other lights or anything?
Not yet. In fact, Clancy's probably getting something like that going. He's kind of, it's super hot, so it probably wouldn't be a fireplace per se, but a couple of candles, maybe some torches, or some lanterns rather, so he doesn't burn the place down.
I mean, you mentioned there was a second level. Is it a staircase, or is there?
Yeah, so it's a double staircase on either side, So it's essentially a staircase that leads to a landing that goes up a little bit to almost like a loft area. So it's open second level with a railing that goes along, all wooden stairs. So it kind of goes up on either side. And that loft is directly above the bar.
Okay, yeah. Basically, Rudy would, as though he lived here, kind of make himself at home and walk directly up the stairs just to kind of get a lay of the land, not excited to be ambushed, if he sits down in a musty old bar.
Love what you've done with the place, Clance.
Yeah, it's, just clean up the spots where I eat. And I don't eat too much, but I drink. Help yourselves to some drinks. You got to, dust off the glasses. And he sort of kind of walks around to the bar, and he's looking for anything that's, got some hooch in it. He's looking for some, and all the bottles, various sizes, colors, shapes, liquid inside, just that little bit. Like, why did they put it back? It's that kind of situation.
It's all just backwash.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. And he's kind of finding things, and then he kind of fishes out that green bottle, the one you were talking about. And he goes, oh, and this one, it's like half full. And he's like,
Yeah, I'll have a little bit. You got to try this too. It's hard to describe, and it doesn't have a label. I think Rupert made it himself. I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous stuff.
I think he did. He did make it himself.
And like I said, I went up and I kind of looked around the loft. I'm assuming nobody's there waiting for us.
There's actually 12 guys with crossbows up there just waiting.
12 angry men.
Yeah, it's an orchestra. They start playing the Reigns of Castamere.
Yeah, and Savic Stain has a machine gun, an actual machine gun. He's just leveling at you. Campaign's over.
I say that because assuming there isn't anyone after that that little conversation dies down about the green drink, Rudy would kind of walk up to the balcony area and would say, he would sort of call out to Clancy, like, so what happened to the town? Kind of wondering, trying to get an idea of who would leave a tavern, just not even locked,
And he would kind of holler up to you. Doesn't even care that you're up there. The only sound that's being made, really, aside from the clanking of the glasses and, as he hands out whatever alcohol you guys would or wouldn't drink, he kind of hands it out. The creaking of those old steps, just kind of as you go up there. And it's a pretty sparse living area. It looks like maybe the owner of the tavern maybe would sleep up there, etc. So there's a bed and some other effects, maybe a sort of couch and a table. And Clancy kind of yells up and he's just like, mine's drying up. No more iron. So no more jobs. Everyone's either moved out of here or moved into the center of town, opposite side. So I'm a guard. I got to make sure that nobody squats, except for me, of course. We take shifts and, it doesn't pay the worst, but I get to stay here.
And Ephraim is sort of going through the bottles himself as well, sniffing a few of them, and he says, Blint was always a bit of a shithole, even when we were kids. It was only a matter of time before stuff started shutting down. I imagine in another 5-10 years, won't be here at all.
Yeah, it's a sad fact. It's true. We can't really pay for the water we need, that comes from Aberwith when we don't have the ore to trade for it or sell ourselves. And so, yeah, but it's where I'll stay now. Better than Creaking Tree.
Yeah, Rudy, sort of remembering what he said earlier, he would say something like, things are bad. Things seem terrible here, but you said they were worse in Creaking Tree. Kind of just trying to pry a little bit, like, how could things possibly be worse in a place that's not half abandoned?
And, he's addressing you, but he's also sort of like looking at you, Ephraim, because he's, you get it. And he just starts to kind of tell you, listen, man, it's different. It's run by the crime families now. It's not the same small town. You can't spit in Creaking Tree without one of the crime families maybe beating you within an inch of your life. It's different, man. It's not the small town anymore. It's owned. It's always in someone's pocket. You never know whose pocket it's in. So no one bothers me here, man. I walk around. I'm a guard, but I'm not guarding anything. I mean, most times I just write. You know.
What do you write?
Oh, stories, tales. I'm not great, but I like it. And he looks embarrassed for a second, and he's trying to decide if he's going to tell you or not. And he goes, kind of looks at Ephraim and rolls his eyes. Poems. Shut up, man. Come on.
And Ephraim takes a swig from that bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so much worse than I remember it tasting. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh man, it didn't age well, but it'll still get you
cork
on your
off
rear.
this for 3 years. Why does it taste like that?
I don't know, man. Who knows what's in it?
Yeah.
Who knows what's in it? But I gotta feed you. I gotta feed you guys. I gotta find you something to eat. You look like you're famished. Sit down. Sit down.
Food if you have it. Yeah. Ephraim is, when you were talking about Creaking Tree, Ephraim just sort of was like nodding along, like it was all stuff that was already sort of happening, and maybe that's even why he decided to leave, was because of that stuff. And so he's just sort of nodding along. There's no huge revelation there for him. It's just things steadily going downhill. It didn't stop just because he left.
And, Clancy is sort of trying to find food at this point, and you can tell that he has some rations. It's bread that's not necessarily fresh, but it's not necessarily rock hard. And you can tell that there's some dried meat. Maybe it's even like Voltura meat. And he kind of starts cobbling together some plates, and, he's kind of looking at Ephraim and just, and then he puts a plate in front of Diggs and just go, here you go. Can I get you something to drink?
He nods with obvious gratitude on his face, and he says, "Thanks. I'm going to be honest. We've buried more bodies than we've had glasses of water." And then he pauses and says, "On the account of the bird watching, I don't suppose the water flow from Aberwith has ceased at all, has it?"
So you've heard. Yeah, water's...
Heard what?
Water's a little more scarce right now. There was some kind of attack. It was war makers. And they leveled a whole part of the city. Water supply has been halved, at least. Savic family is not happy right now.
Well then, anything you recommend from behind the bar?
I'll tell you what. Ephraim is a friend of mine. Ephraim, we were best friends. And you could tell that he's sort of fighting as to whether or not he was going to do this. And he pulls out this container from behind the bar. And it's the cleanest container in the building. And in the dust mouth, it's like he picked up a bar of gold and set it on the counter. It's a big jar of fresh, clean water. And he says, "This is all I got to last me for, well, for as long as who knows, but you're all welcome to a nice tall glass. And he uncorks the stopper on the front of it, sort of a nozzle, and he's wiped out some other glasses, and he pours 4 tall, clean glasses of water. And he sets them before Diggs, Ephraim, and Garrick. And I think, Rudy, you're still upstairs, so he would say, there's some water for you down here, mister.
Yeah, Rudy would absolutely, as he pulls that out, Rudy, maybe kind of overhearing that, would start making his way down at the site of the, like you said, the cleanest container coming out, knowing that it's water and knowing how much he wants it.
Biggs would take his glass he knows what this means. And he shows his appreciation in every way he can toward Clancy. But he almost feels apologetic. He knows he needs to drink water. He knows he needs this glass of water to kind of sustain his strength for the days to come. And so he begins sipping on it, but he feels bad for every sip because he knows he's taking it away from him.
And he would have a glass himself and sort of, well, and then he would sit down with you all and just start talking, just start catching up, and Ephraim, he asks you specifically, he's like, hey man, you still trying those tricks?
Yeah. Hey, watch this. And there's like one of those candles that he lit. And Ephraim just kind of looks at the candle and he reaches out with his hand and he's closing his eyes. He's concentrating real hard. And the flame kind of like gets really big for a second and then goes back to this little candle wick. And he goes, did you see that?
No, what? That was you?
Yeah. Hold up. Watch this.
You. That wasn't you.
Watch this. Hey, watch. He does it again, and this time he extinguishes the candle flame.
What?
That would have been nice when we were stealing the bottles out of here, right?
Exactly.
Oh man,
dude.
Oh, that would have been so nice. Yeah. No, I've just been practicing, I guess. Last 3 years, just wandering around, came in handy a few times.
Wow, man, you really made something of yourself.
No, man. I mean, you're the one with a job and I mean, for lack of a better term, a house. I got the clothes on my back. Not a scrap of gold to my name.
And he's got an awful lot of people trying to, well, never mind. I had
A lot of birds.
Take a sip of water.
Lots of birds, right? Right, Garrick? All those birds out there it's a lot of them.
Where?
And sort of, I feel like as the situation or the conversation sort of turned that way, maybe there was a little bit of an awkward pause. And Rudy, halfway through his water, puts it down, kind of savoring it, and he says, so, how was your dawn of truth? Almost like tongue-in-cheek, like, what did you do that day?
I stayed indoors. Like most honest folk, I can't pretend. I mean, Ephraim, I know it's growing up. We can call it Lightfall around me, is what I'm saying. And I didn't do much anything. I didn't do much of anything.
Mom always used to, she would say it's just another day, even though it wasn't, and even though people made a big deal out of it, she would always say it's just another day, but it wasn't, because she always made, do you remember? She always made the same thing for dinner on that day. She would go and she'd get potatoes and she would get that ox meat, and that was like, we didn't eat a lot of meat, and getting that ox meat from the market, and she'd make that stew with the crusty bread. So she acted like it was just another day, but we never ate like that. So
I remember, man, that was the best stew I've ever had.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, man, I miss that stew. You know?
Yeah. It's not really stew like that anywhere else. Ephraim's sort of like, even though there's a group around the table, he just leans in. Hey, I'm really sorry about, and he kind of points to his teeth, that I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to leave like that.
This, man, I think being knocked on my rear end is what it took me to finally make something of myself. You know, you know, have you seen Rovi since you've been back?
No, I was hoping to avoid that. You two aren't. Did you end up, or
Kinda. I mean,
I don't care. You know, it's been 3 years. I don't care if you did.
We're definitely close, man. You know, I think we're together. That feels weird. But it's been, you left, man.
No, and Ephraim's like kind of just acting like, oh no, it's cool. But he's like going for that green stuff in that bottle, and he's like, no, of course, I wasn't here. I wasn't around.
Yeah.
Oh. So that's great. That's having a hard time not sounding sarcastic. It's great. I'm glad.
No, and I'll tell her. Should I tell her you said hi? Should I?
No, I'd probably best for both of us that she not know that I was here.
She might punch me.
Yeah, you might lose the rest of that tooth.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I really am sorry about that. That was dumb, man.
Hey, look, man. It was 3 years ago. Lots happened. Why don't we toast with some water here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, with my friends here too.
And he says, to no bleak storms on sunny days.
No bleak storms on sunny days.
No bleak storms.
And he sort of takes a bigger gulp and he says, and at this point he's leaned in, kind of just addressing you now, Ephraim, because he, you know, that the discomfort of strangers has faded in this nostalgia. Hey, man, there's a lot of rumors going around about you. Were you? This is going to sound weird because you're sitting here and they were saying that you were killed. I heard that you were dead. Like 2 weeks ago, I heard that you were dead.
I mean, obviously I'm not. So I'm not sure what you heard. I've just been out watching birds.
Weird stories.
You know how word gets around. I mean, I spent a lot of time, you know, east of here, and lots of stuff going on down there. Rumors happen.
And Rudy, kind of overhearing, would not really to anyone, but just to the room, say, and how often is it you hear of people dying anyway, right? I mean, it seems like every day someone else is dying. Well, I don't know. I guess occasionally there are rumors, you know? Kind of like trying to play up like, no, you know, that was just a thing people said.
Right. And he, you know, and you know, honestly, he can't deny it. You know, the way that you're talking, Clancy's just like, yeah, like he dismisses it. It's the thought is ridiculous because it happens every day in the Dust Mouth. Not hearing about a death is like, oh, no kidding. And so your friends here, how did you all meet?
Ephraim would kind of take a big drink of water so he doesn't have to answer, hoping someone else will take up the lie.
Diggs too. We're both drinking.
So I feel like it would fall on Rudy. And he would try real hard to think of something. So despite the fact that James can't think of something, I think Rudy would. If there was somewhere near, like another town that wasn't Creaking Tree, but that was, on the other side, just kind of like he would just tell a very generic, but just with enough detail kind of story. Like, oh, we all met in, a tavern, or, we were doing this. We ran into each other while we were, at the grocery store. I don't know. Like I said,
Sure.
I can't really think of a good generic.
Let's do this. Let's do this. Roll me a d6, and I'll pick something off the notable locations table off the living recap document.
Okay, 6.
6. All right. So, Oakwither. So Oakwither is where Kathleen was from, and it's one of several of the small outlying settlements to Aberystwyth. It's known for its pottery, its other wares, as well as rearing the best hunting dogs in the region.
So Rudy would absolutely go for that. He'd say, "Oh yes," and he would, to his companions, mention almost to some degree honor the sort of memory of Kathleen without obviously mentioning that she was shot through the eye or that she existed at all. But he would say that they were in Oakwither, and he was looking at some fine pottery, and he saw one of them, and kind of just, like I said, a very generic, like, yeah, we kind of just met up and we stuck together. We were all on the way to we were on our way to Creaking Tree, and so we decided we traveled together, kind of thing. Like I said, very generic, but just enough detail. Like, yeah, we were in Oakwither. It was a couple days ago. We came through. He would avoid mentioning anything about the Dawn of Truth, or Lightfall. Basically, the anniversary. He would kind of just avoid it.
And Clancy would be fine with that. He'd just take it as like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Are you guys gonna stay here? You can. It's not a problem. I have to finish my rounds.
I think we'll stay tonight. And he kind of looks to the others for confirmation. I mean, if that's okay with you, we won't stay much beyond that. We got to keep moving. But if we could sleep here, that would be fantastic.
And you would look over, and Garrick would actually already have his head down on the bar. He's out.
And Ephraim would kind of take notice of that and say to Clancy, I mean, Garrick's staying here whether we do or not, so he already found his bed.
Yeah, and of course Rudy would absolutely be interested in staying. He'd figure something out, something as soft as possible.
You said you got to finish your rounds though, Clance?
Yeah, just a couple of places I got to check before dark. I mean, I'm supposed to. I mean, I guess I could skip it, but
No. Oh, we wouldn't want to put you out. And Ephraim kind of has a slight look of alarm in his eyes, and he looks over at Diggs and Rudy, and then looks at Clancy and says, "Why don't I come with you? You have some company, like not quite tired yet. I could use a little walk, fresh air."
Okay, sure, we can catch up. You can tell me more about this visit to Oakwither. Like, what?
Yeah,
we went to Oakwither.
Yeah, I know a ton about Oakwither. I've definitely been there, and I can tell you all about it.
Sure.
And he kind of looks at Rudy and Diggs and says, "So, you guys, hunker down, and I'm gonna go keep an eye out with Clancy here."
Absolutely, and make sure you take note of any of those, Aberystwyth robins we were trying to find.
And Diggs will pull you close, Ephraim, and say, and see if you can get your hands on some weapons.
Right, yeah. definitely.
The Robins. The Robins.
Robins. Yep.
Rudy just looks over at Diggs like, bro, like, come on.
Well, hold on. I pulled him close to try to be silent.
Okay. Yeah,
Let me be clear about that. Pulling you close means not so I can scream in your face, but whisper and you can still hear me.
Well,
but
yeah,
I imagine Rudy would still hear. Rudy would still hear it.
And that's, I guess, what I mean. Like, Rudy would kind of give you a look like, I think he's got it. Like, she gives Crunk when she's like, got the broccoli. Hit him on the head. That's from Emperor's New Groove. I'm sorry.
And yeah, totally, man. And that's exactly how it is now. And Clancy's barely paying attention. He's just like kind of like, he's looking for his rickety, busted out crossbow, like to go and just do the lip service of this task. Like, so if his sergeant or his, whoever's in charge of him says, "Did you check such and such?" He can go, "Yeah, I checked."
Yeah, and Ephraim's doing the like, right, like catching on to what Rudy and Diggs are saying. Put poison for Kuzco. Kuzco's poison, right? And he'll go with Clance.
So Ephraim and Clancy leave out the front door this time, and they're off, doing whatever Clancy's doing the rounds. So what do Diggs, Garrick, and Rudy do now that you have this whole place to yourself?
So I get on the phone immediately and call all my friends and tell them there's a party. I use the word kegger, in fact.
Diggs will actually ask, and so Garrick's asleep, right, on the bar. You said you were passed out on the bar.
Yep.
He would ask Rudy if we should consider following Ephraim, if you actually trust this Clancy character.
And Rudy, like, was just like getting ready to find a spot to like lay down or something. And you say this and he knows that it makes so much sense. And he even considers the immense, like, suspicious hospitality of this person for these people he's never met. And he just tries to imagine who's paying, Clancy and how much. And he kind of nods, and he would say, I guess it couldn't hurt, but.
Well, it might if he sees us. I mean, that'll damage our relationship real quick.
We'll just, say we're looking for birds, and like he almost like chuckles at the end of that, like, oh my god, it's ridiculous how that caught on. And so he would say, well, you don't strike me as the Heidi type, but
Well, I was going to ask you, this is going to sound like a stupid question. Can you make me invisible?
And he would almost like he would kind of wait for a moment, like he doesn't want you to know that he can't make you invisible, but he wants you to think.
No, it doesn't matter how long you wait. Diggs stands there with bated breath that you might just come through with a yes.
Well, and like he wants to. It's up to Rudy to now convince you why this other thing that I can do is better than being invisible. Like some sort of illusion, like, no, trust me, if you but like looking what I'm looking at, I'm like, you know what? And so Rudy would say, well, I think that might draw a little more attention than we'd want. You running around without corporeal form.
That was out of character. That was
and Rudy would say, I can't go with you, but if you did want to go, just I have a cover story. Like Rudy's kind of like, listen, like you can just like wander around. It's an empty town, but just have something in your head that's better than bird watching if you get caught.
I think that at the end, Diggs will shake his head and think about Ephraim and think about in the short amount of time that they've been together, what they've been through. And he thinks that the thought process lies in trust at the end of the day. And so he kind of nods, drinks the rest of his water, looks at it with regret now that it's completely gone. But he looks back to you, Rudy, and says, maybe it was a bad plan all along. You go ahead and get sleep. I'll keep watch.
And Rudy would kind of silently agree and nod and go over and find sort of an area to do that, to go to sleep.
And Garrick, you're jolted suddenly awake as you stand in this tavern alone, and there's a green fog sort of rolling around, and it's ethereal, and you can't tell if you're awake or you're dreaming. And so you're sort of looking, and you're compelled to look behind the bar as though you hear a haunting sort of whisper, but it's a sweet whisper, one that you maybe are familiar with from your youth.
So I'm just looking all around and just bewildered. Who's there?
Here. And you hear this voice that's deep and soothing, but powerful. And it's sort of emanating from behind the bar.
So I would kind of get up. I would actually climb over the bar. Yeah. And I'm kind of like trying to almost fan through this mist. Like,
yeah, and as you do so, your form sort of wisps some of the mist out of the way, and it reveals this particularly knotted lump of wood in one of the planks on the floor. And so you see the knots in the wood start to sort of warp and shift, and they start to writhe and grow. So this plank of wood that's knotted starts to sort of grow branches and leaves as though it's a living tree and not a plank in a floor. And so as this happens, a beautiful face appears. The face of the lady from the wood. And with a voice, quickly, she says, "Right here." And then you're awake. And it's as though no time has passed. Rudy and Diggs are still sort of sitting there.
and I just kind of look up, and I actually get up and I peer over the bar where I had just dreamt I had been. But
Don't you think it's a bit early? You'd hear Diggs say to you as he sees you peering at the liquor bottles.
And I actually just say, yes, of course. And I actually say, I'll just a little nightmare. I'm just going to get up. I'm going to look around here and explore. And I would go to that spot where I saw the face.
And the wood's still knotted there, but it's not as exaggerated as it was in your dream. But you can see the construction of the wood floor in this place. It's fine. It's not bad, but it's decent craftsmanship. The pattern of the panels changes right there. And there's a small, I would say, relief or indentation, as though this looks like you're now looking at a trap door behind the bar.
I would kind of look for anything around me that I could possibly use to pry this, like a knife of some kind. I don't have a dagger or anything, but yeah, I guess I would look for a knife. Do I see anything around?
Sure, I'd say probably just this rusted old knife they used to cut cheese and bread and stuff like that, dusty under the bar.
Okay, yeah. So I grab that, and I just kind of take a glance over the bar, and I just see, make sure no one's really wondering, and just kind of look around casually, kind of like, And then I crouch back down with the knife and I begin working at this board.
And it comes up fairly easily. It's a trapdoor, and you can tell that it's one that's put into place. It's not on hinges or anything. And so it pries up fairly easily. And if you were to just remove it, it's reasonable size. You can easily fit in and out of it. And there's a set of stairs going down to what looks like a story below the inn. It's not a very long staircase, so the natural light from the day sort of shows you at least the floor, but you can't see the contents of the room because it's dark.
And I would, at this point, I would stand up. Did Diggs go out to follow Ephraim?
Nope. Stayed in. We stayed in.
Okay. So you stayed. So I would just go over here. Guys, come check this out.
And Rudy,
go ahead, Rudy.
he would slowly sort of get up on his staff and whatever and walk over, assuming that he found, he's behind the bar, assuming he found more water or a bottle or thinking like, what could he possibly want?
Should I go down there? As you guys get there, you would see where I'm talking about. There was a loose board.
And Rudy would say, I would certainly say so, and he would kind of look to the door and say, oh, but I would hurry. If it's a secret, well, we don't want him knowing we know.
Right. And I just head down. I can see just fine.
Yeah, and as you go down there, it's a room the size of the room that you're in above it. So this looks like an entire floor built under the bar. And it would be difficult for your eyes not to go wide with what you see. And we're going to cut to Ephraim. So Clancy's sort of clumsy. He's got a couple of satchels on, and he's like, and you can tell that he's sort of like probably trying to look like his job's a little harder than it is for you. You're his buddy from growing up, and he's just kind of, so he's shuffling a couple of bags around and kind of, and he's got his crossbow and he's knocking on doors and just, anybody in there? He's kind of doing that, and he's like, this job, man.
Does anyone ever actually say, yeah, I'm in here? Like when you knock, do they say, yeah, I'm squatting in here, come arrest me?
Yeah, well, this one guy did. He was a drunk. There's old Todd. Remember old Todd?
Todd. He the one with the weird bald spot in the front?
Yes. Old Todd. Yes.
Yep.
And we'd always come up with different reasons for it.
Yeah, your idea was that he had put the iron on and then it fell on his head. Yep.
Yes. Which
we went with.
I'd still put money on that, man. Because of the shape.
Right. It was a triangle. It was a triangle on the front of his head. Yep.
And I swear,
think that's right.
If you could see real close, there's that dot, but
yeah.
Old Todd was sleeping one off, and he must have thought I was the sheriff. The way he popped up and said, I'm in here. Don't shoot. It's old Todd. And so I mess with him, right? So I kick in the door and I go, get on the ground. And he did. And oh man, I laughed. He didn't laugh. He gathered his stuff and that was ridiculous. Oh.
So you just wander around and make sure no one's living in here? I mean, that seems like a pretty sweet gig, man.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing is the Volturas. Occasionally there's one of the spire goblins, which, those are creepy. They wander in, but Yeah, but other than that, man, it's a pretty sweet gig. It's one of those things where somebody's got to do it, or things will come and squat and all that. And he's sort of, going through, checking the doors, and one of them stuck. And he's like, these darn things. And he sorts kind of like rifling through his bag, and you see him kind of like he's going to pull out a crowbar or something. And he asks you if can you give it a try for me? I'm going to try to pry it here in a second.
Is it stuck or is it locked?
It shouldn't be locked. I mean, you still picking locks?
Gotta make money somehow, man.
You listen, it might be locked.
Let me just try it.
Prove it.
All right. And
All
so I'll kind of get down and look at the knob, and I try it. Is it locked? Does it seem locked?
It is locked. It's absolutely locked.
Does someone live here? Am I breaking into someone's house, or is this is a no? This is empty.
No, this is empty. It shouldn't be locked. I'm sure one of the idiots who was on rounds probably just locked it from the inside.
All right. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I sort of like reach in and like make a big sort of show of pulling out this ridiculous kit of picks, and I just kind of like give Clancy a look like, and pull out a couple of picks here, and I put one in, find the tumblers. Okay, yeah, this is cheap. This will just be a second, and I'm gonna try and pop the lock here.
Go for it.
That'll be, let's see, with my thieves tools, that will be a 15 total.
All right. So with relative ease, it kind of pops open. And as you're kind of fiddling and working and, doing your thing, you can see, Clancy's just clumsily, he like drops something and he just kind of like rummaging through his bag. Cause now you're actually proving that you're great at things that he wishes he could do. Like he's just a guard, And so he's kind of fumbling through his bag and he's like, man, we've all had to do stuff we're not proud of, but at least yours is useful. I mean, and as you pop the lock, you kind of hear him, shuffling. And then you hear a click and his voice changes. And he says, we've all had to do stuff we're not proud of.
Yeah, you were saying that earlier. You got to do what you have to, man. And he rolls up his picks, puts them in his belt. So what, you going to check this place or?
And as you're rolling up your pick and you say, yeah, you got to do what you have to. As you turn, you see that Clancy is wearing the mask of the bounty hunter that shot Kathleen through the eye. And he's got a much nicer crossbow. And we're going to take a break.
He landoed me. He did.
And you know what? We as players, we all asked ourselves, would my character not believe it? You know what? Nope, this sounds great. And we all came up with little adages that we'd say to each other. We could have rolled an insight check at any point, but this was better. This was better.
The thing is, I don't want to stop a Lando before it happens. I want to have the Lando happen to me.
Exactly. You want to get landed so you can work out of it, man.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because that's, like you said, that's what would have happened to the characters. It's not me as a player like, well, Tim is probably going to try and kill us somehow, and this new person he introduced, I honestly wasn't sure. But, like, if you're at all like, oh, maybe, I'm like, that doesn't mean my character's going to think because the DM brought this new guy in.
Yeah.
I trusted him. For sure.
Yeah. I will say it's hard to work yourself out of one of those things when you're dead.
I'm going to try, man. I want to live long enough to go, what's going on, buddy?
And it's funny because in my prep, I thought this is exactly what the kind of thing I would overcomplicate in the past and think, well, I got to make sure it's this red herring. And I thought, no, they should kind of know. And it should be surprising but inevitable. And like, oh, when is it going to happen? More than trying to trick you guys. And then you're confused, like, what the hell? Clancy's what?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys kind of played along and did it big. So we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll see where the heck the rest of this session goes.
Sounds good.
Awesome,
See you
guys.
guys.
Thanks for watching.
one man staring at his computer screen, wondering, will there be an intermission message like a radio announcer? That one man smiles. That one man contemplates how lucky he is. And now that one man begins to think that the voice is talking to him. Or her.
Wow, I'm the first one back. Sweet. I'm going to check the chat here. Hope everyone's having a good night. I'm having a ton of fun.
I got back, but I hate being the first person back.
Oh, so you just sit there silently waiting for someone to get back?
Nope, eating pizza.
What kind of pizza you eating?
I got Papa John's.
Papa John's.
Yeah.
Now that is a name I have not heard in a long time. Long time.
I always like to switch it up. So yeah, I got Papa John's, and it's freaking awesome.
Does Papa John's still do the garlic dipping sauce?
Sure do.
Oh man,
When we got it, Cassie was like, "How is their garlic sauce?" And we had 3 of them, and I was like,
Mhm.
"It is like famously the best."
Yes.
Everybody has garlic sauce, but not like Papa John's.
Not like Papa John's. I spilled garlic sauce one time. I was at a party and there was like Papa John's there, and I got a slice of pizza and I got a little thing of the garlic sauce. I was amazed that there was any left because it was like a big party. And I'm just like sitting on the couch. I'm eating my pizza, and I sort of shift a little bit because someone else comes and sits on the couch next to me, and the sauce falls on my pants. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, okay, well, that pair of pants is ruined because not only is the sauce mostly oil, so it just immediately oil stain, but it's so garlicky. And then I realized my phone was in my pocket. And this was like this was in college, so I didn't have a smartphone. It was like an old flip phone. And so I tried to clean it out, man. I washed it out as best I could, but I had that phone for like another 9 months. And every time I would flip it open and answer it, it was like, oh God, it was just like a whiff of garlic because there was garlic just in the phone. It was horrible.
Yeah, I spilled some same stuff. We used to get it in college all the time because we actually had the Calvin College special. It was like they had a deal where they would deliver to us real cheap.
Oh, that's the best.
And so it was like the pizza people got in the dorms.
Yeah.
And we're eating in the dorms. We're like eating on our beds, right? Because it's a dorm room. And I spilled some on my bedspread. And it was like, yeah, I think we washed it. But I think my bedspread just smelled for the rest of the year. And after that,
Dude.
like it was just stained. It's like I think I might still have it in the closet somewhere. Just like it's the last resort bedspread.
Yeah, the staying power of that, the smell in that garlic sauce is just like, it's incredible. I don't know what they put in there, but it just is impossible to get rid of.
I feel like I have been tempting fate all day eating pizza with a white t-shirt on.
Yeah, dude, I was going to say,
like,
very
dude,
brave.
what the hell?
Very, very brave.
It's like wearing a black t-shirt while eating a funnel cake. You ever have a funnel cake?
Yes.
Just asking for it.
With all the powdered sugar.
Yeah, impossible not to look like the background of a Carl Sagan episode of.
Well, that's like Barker when you were in town and we went to Legendary Donuts and we were just eating donuts on the sidewalk and we're both like leaning forward like 3 feet, just eating these donuts like barbarians so we don't get it all over our shirt.
Yeah,
We gotta call that funnel cake roulette.
Dude, that's all the chambers have bullets in them. In that,
That's it.
Yeah.
Dude. You put on a fresh black Hanes, like
Yeah.
pristine.
Yes.
Like Russian casino basement. Take a bite of the donut, comrade.
Yeah, when you order the funnel cake, they're like, what size are you? Oh, men's medium? All right, let me get your t-shirt. And they grab a fresh Hanes for you. Here you go.
Perfect.
Well, thank you all
All
for
right.
tuning in. We're going to jump right back in here, and we'll start with... So Clancy is behind you, Ephraim, and he has this very, very nice crossbow leveled at your face, probably 10 feet from you. And the last thing he sort of said was, again, we've all had to do things we're not proud of.
So I'm sort of still tucking my little, roll of thieves' tools into my belt as I turn around and I see this crossbow and I look up and I see the mask that he's wearing. And it's one of those things where just everything kind of clicks over the course of about 2 seconds as I'm just looking at him and I go, okay. And I'm instantly looking for, I imagine that we have some sort of light source with us because it's dark out and he's doing his rounds. Is there like a torch or a lantern that he's holding or that's nearby him?
So let's do, he had the lantern next to him, kind of giving you and he light,
Yeah.
And that is where it is. It's on the ground, sort of in between the two of you, and just the light of the lantern with the sun behind Broken Peak now.
Yeah.
The place where you're crucified. And so it's just, yeah, it's right.
So what I do is I'm sort of half leaning down, you know, coming up from a knelt position to pick this lock, putting my thieves' tools in the back of my belt, and I sort of put up a hand as like a hold on, but I then flick my hand like this, and I'm going to cast Control Flames, and I want to erupt the flame in the lantern and extend it 5 feet towards Clancy. Basically, I just want to burst the lantern and have the flame immediately just whoosh towards him.
Awesome. And he can't fire or anything. He's not thinking about it. He's getting ready to monologue you, you know? He's just wanting to explain because you're his friend. But so mechanically, what do I have to do?
So there's no mechanics to it. I can just expand a flame 5 feet in one direction. There's no fuel for it, so I imagine that it's just sort of a quick burst of flame. Essentially, I just want to throw him off his game, so then I can use a move action to close the distance between me and him.
And you may do so. The flame,
okay, cool.
It licks up in front of him quickly.
Yeah.
It definitely moves the crossbow. He kind of reflexively covers his face, like, and you have that millisecond to move.
So when the flames sort of dies down, I'm there. I'm right in front of him. My sword is halfway out of my scabbard, and I'm sort of holding my hand up like this. So if he's going to fire the crossbow or try and get enough distance away from me to fire the crossbow, like, I've got him.
Perfect. And you're able to do that. And so, you know, as this begins to happen, he definitely tries to act. And so for now, I'll keep you out of initiative order since you're both acting in instants, you know. But what he's going to try to do is drop the crossbow and reach for a dagger in his belt. And you can kind of see that. You're sharp enough and you've been around long enough to know what it looks like when someone's reaching for a dagger.
Okay, and as he reaches for the dagger, am I able to act, or is he just sort of doing his action now?
No, you can go ahead. So what I'm going to do is until someone is directly being fully threatened, I'm going to keep it to where it's like tit for tat, sort of like a chess game of verbal movements.
Okay, cool. So I imagine like the scene of this, like there's that quick burst of flame, and it's almost like a strobe light where Ephraim is there and then he's not there and he's in front of him. And the light is sort of dying down. And as the light is dying down, we're sort of locked in this sort of grapple, trying to sort of outdraw weapons. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try and grapple him here. It's not easy for Ephraim to draw steel on his friend. And so he's just going to try and wrestle the weapon away from him. So I'm going to do a grapple check here.
Absolutely.
My athletics versus his here.
Here we go.
Ooh, not awesome. I got a 10 total.
Clancy rolled a nat 1.
Oh, awesome. So he goes to bring out this dagger. I hook his elbow, bring it around, and pin it like in between my arm and my torso. And I sort of go for his other hand as well. So we're sort of doing like the wrestling move where we're just holding each other's hands, just like, ugh! So I've sort of got both his arms pinned with my arms. And I say, don't do it.
And it's essentially just like, this can only end one way. You did this to yourself when you killed Donovan Stain. This is on you.
Donovan Stain? How do you even know that name? What the hell are you talking about?
What do you mean? Don't you understand? Don't you understand? Huh? When I left Creaking Tree, I came to work for the Stains. And he tries to wrench free, and he can't. He's just like, and you've got, like you said, you've got him. He's just like, you did this to yourself. You should have just stayed crucified.
And I say, I'm sort of trying to bear down on him, but I imagine he's a bigger guy than me. I think that Ephraim was always quicker, was always a little bit more cunning, and just generally a little defter. But I think I know that Clancy's bigger than me. He's broader shouldered, and I know that he's going to out-grapple me at some point. At some point, he's going to outlast my strength. So I'm sort of frantically trying to figure out my next course of action here as I'm holding him. And I tell him, I left Creaking Tree so that I didn't have to work for them. You think they didn't take notice of my skills? That's why I left. These crime families wanted me to work for them, and I wouldn't do it. So you're weak, Clance. You're weak because you didn't do anything else. You just went right to him.
You can't all leave. We didn't all lose someone. And he starts trying to push down on it. He's obviously talking about your mother who took her life. And we didn't all lose someone. We didn't all run away.
I didn't run away. I don't have to explain myself to you. And I'm going to try and make him prone. I'm going to try and get him on the ground and put my knee into his chest. And I'm just going to try and start punching him.
So let's go ahead and just do an opposed strength check at this point. Okay.
So that's 13 for me.
You win by 1 point.
Oh, I've been lifting since I left, Clancy. So I drive him into the ground. Again, I put all of my weight on him, put my knee on his chest, and I rear back and I just start punching him in the mask. Just, and I sort of do the thing where my right arm starts getting tired. I switch, hold him with my right, and go for a left hook, just trying to pummel him into submission. And I think that I'm probably, it's hard to tell, but maybe crying, maybe sweating, just dripping from my face as I'm punching him, and I just silently beating him into submission.
And as you're doing that, and as you hear the dull thud of your fingers hitting, your knuckles hitting this mask, and it's starting to scrape them and make them bleed. And as you said, the sweat and these tears are just sort of splatting onto this mask. And if the camera were to pan out, you would see that by the torchlight, as you're doing this, another figure with an identical mask has approached you and is now leveling a crossbow at you as well. If you recall, there were two figures who were up on the ravine that shot at Kathleen. And we're going to go to Garrick. So Garrick, as you walk into this cellar, your sight granted to you by this otherworldly power allows you to see in the dark with this sort of green tinge, this sort of foggy green tinge. And you see about, maybe, you can't tell exactly how many. There's got to be half a dozen armed men in the basement waiting for you. And there's one in particular who has a bow drawn, pointing right at you, maybe 10 feet away. And in the midst of all this, you see your friend Piotr. And he's sort of in this ethereal way because he has no tangible form to you. He's able to sort of warp and twist his body. And in this case, he uses it for comedic effect as he takes his thumb and he cartoonishly cuts his own head off as it falls into his hand. And he just sort of shrugs like, whoops, as the person who has the bow leveled at you says, "You're early." Roll initiative. Would one of you fine boys be willing to be the initiative tracker?
I'll do it.
Awesome. I'm also going to go ahead and state that if you check out absolutetabletop.com, I think it's up there. I'm not sure if it's live or not, so maybe I shouldn't say anything. But Matt, are the mass combat rules up? The ones that you used?
The HP, the pool of HP?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to news.absolutetabletop.com, I put my rules for HP pools up there.
Yes, perfect. And so here it is. It's called For the Horde. I'll put this link in the chat. And that is what I'm using. I'm actually using Matt's article on absolutetabletop.com to run this combat against the Savic family's minions, as it were. Awesome. And thank you for tracking that. So immediately, and what I'll do is the initiative for the Savic thugs, we'll call them, is 11. Savic thugs go 11. Right. So, the reason why I went ahead and rolled initiative is because I feel like both groups were sort of surprised. I'm assuming that the Savic thugs were expecting Clancy, and they weren't all armed and at the ready. So when it was you, they're all kind of like, huh. All right. So, Garrick, you're actually able to act first.
So they say, you're early. And I say, actually, I was just leaving. And I extend my staff, and very quickly a large crackling bolt flies out. And I point at the one with the bow, and that is going to be a 14 to hit.
Yes, that does hit. Let me go ahead and say this. I'm actually using a tip from Hanker and Furnail. This entire scene has a DC of 12. So 12 AC, 12 difficulty class for anything you're trying to do. It's just the scene has a DC of 12. So you absolutely hit.
Okay. In that case, I try to karate chop them all in the head at the same time. And I'll try to get a 12. Okay.
Like
all right.
this.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be terrible. Sorry, I gotta look at my spell here. It's been a while.
No, go for it, man.
All right, so yeah, that's going to be a whopping 2 lightning damage on that guy. And if possible, if I'm not engaged, if I'm still a decent distance away, I'm going to try to scramble back up the stairs, kind of using that as almost a diversion, this crackle.
Yeah, I'll absolutely allow that. So you're able to go up the entirety of the staircase. But one of the things I want to take a moment to do is just say, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time you're casting Witch Bolt, right?
I think I cast it last time, but I'm not totally sure.
Oh, okay. Because I was just going to say, I wanted you to describe to me what it feels like to have the power of your patron surging through you in this way.
I still want to know the answer to that question, though.
I do still want to know this answer. Yeah, we're going to say, this is what I want to hear.
Yeah, so actually I would imagine that as I'm looking at Piator as well, as this energy flows through me, and it may be that I just cast Eldritch Blast last time. And so I imagine that there's a little bit of my hair is standing up for sure. This is a new sort of energy. Yeah, so my hair is actually like on my arms and my head. I mean, it's like a little bit of static on each side, right? As I'm feeling this, and it feels weird. It feels really weird. And as I cast it, as this bolt leaps from my staff, it's unlike any other blast that I've felt before. And I actually see Piator's eyes as he's holding his head right behind this guy with the bow. I see his eyes light up as, with the same glow as as I cast this thing, and I scramble up the stairs.
And that's beautiful. Take a point of inspiration for that. And so Rudy and Diggs both, I think that the scene would play out very quickly. Garrick would go down the stairs. You'd hear sort of a muffled, something or other. And then you'd hear, actually, I was just leaving. And then this flash of lightning. And then he'd come bolting up the stairs, maybe even past you. So Rudy, it's your turn to act. What are you going to do?
Technically it's the thugs. I don't know if you were skipping that on purpose or... but they rolled higher than I did.
That was actually a mistake. You're right.
No, dude. I rolled a 12.
No, that was my fault for not being scrolled far enough down in the chat to see Barker's hard work. So the thugs, like I said, there's at least a half dozen of them, maybe more in the darkness. They are going to use just a full move action to do their best to try to disperse up the stairs. Just kind of get out of there. Now, you hear from the other side of the room another sort of floor panel, and you see about half of them coming up one side of the room and about half of them attempting to come up the other side. And so that's their turn. They're going to use their full move action to try to get out into the top level of this tavern, Rupert's Quarry. So now, Rudy, it is actually your turn.
So, okay. As a bunch of them are running up the stairs, because that's behind the bar, right? Like at least this one that he went was behind the bar.
They're
so
behind
I probably
the
would have
bar.
been on the other side.
Right.
And so basically, like, people are just like popping up. Rudy is going to cast sleep on them. And what I get to do is basically I get to roll 5d8 and then affect that many hit dice of people. And I actually have a bunch of new dice, so let me get all my d8s, or a couple d8s here.
Do it big. And as far as the hit dice for them, they are rocking d8s.
Well, basically, as far as I understand it, I will roll 5d8 and then up to that many of the hit points that they have.
Oh, good.
I'll be able to
Okay, great.
do that.
That's perfect.
Does that sound right to people that know how to play this game?
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's
and
based
again,
on their HP, which is super easy to do with a hit point pool, by the way.
Yeah. So 22 on my 5d8. So basically 22 HP of them are affected. So I don't know how many there are, how many hit points they have, but basically based on that, as many as possible will go to sleep until they're, I think, roused or for a couple rounds. Let me look up how that works.
That's awesome. I love sleep. That's dope. That's
absolutely
beautiful.
So the first...
Hope you left some for us, though.
Yeah, the first two that come up out of there just kind of, they're like running, and they're running as though they're in battle. They're not like turning and looking. They know, okay, I've got to surprise them and run straight across without looking. So they're all just sort of darting across. And the first two do that. And it's like, just, and then the third one sort of like stops in front of the two that are now sleeping in front of you. And he sort of turns like, what just happened?
Yeah, and so basically if somebody like tries to wake them or takes an action to shake or slap them or something, they'll wake up. But yeah, then for now they're just unconscious. They, like you said, they just bowled right over on the floor. I'd like to imagine, this is maybe pushing a little bit, I like to imagine that they are making it difficult for everyone else to get out, because if they fainted in front of the stairs, and if it goes up to a, like, how else would you get out? They're on either side. They can't really go up and out, so they're kind of like climbing over each other. So I just want to throw that out there.
Absolutely that. And so two are unconscious, and another two emerge, sort of slowing down, like you said, almost standing still, but just sort of like not really understanding why two guys that are supposed to be killing you are asleep in front of them. So that is perfect. And Diggs, it is your turn.
Let me ask you a question. How many people, if there are two are asleep and two are emerging, does that mean there are two in the cellar still? I'm calling it the cellar, whatever the...
Sure. So the idea is there are 8 total people. There are 8 total. 4 are coming up one stairwell behind the bar. 4 are coming up another stairwell in the caddy corner.
Okay.
So there are 2 asleep and 2, probably 1 halfway up the stairs, sort of at chest height, like, what's happening, guys? Why'd you stop?
Yeah.
And then 1 guy stumbling on the other 2 asleep, and then there are 4 wide awake guys standing at the other side of
on the other set of stairs.
The other side of the, well, there's 2 sets of stairs. So the idea is that, right, so the other side of the room, caddy corner, probably 30 feet away, there's another 4 dudes who are emerging from that stairwell.
So the one that stumbled, Diggs would want to tackle him down the stairs, like at a running tackle while he's stunned at what's going on. Just hit him, make it as unfair of a fight as you possibly can.
That's
so,
perfect.
Do you want me to roll like a strength check?
I'm thinking athletics would probably fit the bill here.
Okay, cool. Oh man, that was horrible. 3, 4, 5. That's a 7 total. 7 total.
So, have you ever seen somebody who has all the force and speed, but they don't quite get the height?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going for a straight dive over the bar.
Yeah.
What ends up happening is you actually slide across the top of the bar, spilling the remainder of that delicious green bottle.
Oh, great.
That breaks,
Great.
but you are able to, just by sheer force of physics, slide across the counter, and you're just this planking object in midair
Yes.
that just clotheslines this dude like in the rib, just like
And as
400 pounds of digs.
And Diggs just thinks wouldn't say it out loud, but he realizes that he's getting rusty at this moment when he's accidentally clotheslining the dude with his whole body. He realizes something's changed.
That's perfect. So I'll say that you and the dude are prone. You have collapsed. And
I'm as messed up as he is.
Totally. And the guy who was halfway up the stairs probably got kicked in the face by your boot.
Yes. By the other guy's boot. Not mine.
The old, like that situation.
I did that on purpose.
What? So Ephraim, you're savvy at watching your back. So even in this heated emotional moment, you're punching and pounding, and the torchlight being so close to you is making your ability to see further away in the darkness. It's hindering it, but you see it. And you see this figure walk up and has this really, really fancy looking bow just drawn and is probably 15 feet from you at this point.
So I'm kneeling on top of Clancy, and I've stopped punching him. I'm just kind of... And there's blood sort of dripping off of my knuckles from where the blood has sort of soaked through his mask where I've punched him. And I imagine a few of my knuckles have burst open and are bleeding themselves. I'm going to try and, as quickly as I possibly can, reach back, pull out my hand crossbow, and get off a shot on this guy, and hopefully just dive for cover as quickly as I can. So do you want me to just do a regular attack, or do I need to like sleight of hand to try and outdraw this guy?
I was going to say, do you want to do an opposed roll for quick draw?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do with that.
No, I just think that would be cooler to do like a contest, because at this point, Clancy, you can tell that he's unconscious.
Yeah.
You don't know how long it's been since you've been wailing on his face, but like you said, this mask and the blood, he's just like... So do you want to do like, do you have sleight of hand?
Yeah, I do.
I'll super let you use sleight of hand versus just this regular dex check. I think that'll
Awesome.
be...
Awesome is the famous last words of Ephraim.
Oh, no.
Record show.
That is a 1.
All right. So,
Inspiration.
so here's your... I was going to say, do you have inspiration?
If you haven't given it to me this session, then no, I don't.
Okay, no, I didn't. I made sure nobody had inspiration.
Way to be, Tim.
I made sure that no one had inspiration.
I have one written here, but I don't know if you gave it to me.
You did get it when you used the seasonings to cast a spell.
Good. Just making sure, because I'm like, I want to make sure that's a real one before I go and try and use it.
I made sure that nobody started with it, because I was like, dude, no one's inspired.
Nobody uses more inspiration than I do, and I'm very happy to hear that we're not allowed to have too much.
Yeah, it's going to be hard fought.
Yes.
But so your bolt just flies. Where does it go? Because it certainly doesn't hit your assailant.
I imagine that I bring it up and I pull the trigger too early, so I'm sort of drawing it out and pull the trigger, and it sort of sinks into the dust like maybe 7 feet in front of me. Just, and I sort of like look at the bolt and then glance up at this guy drawing back on this really nice longbow who looks like he knows what he's doing more than I do.
See, in my headcanon, you shoot Clancy in his face. You're like, oops.
It's like, dude. And then I go, I meant to kill you.
It's funny because in the chat for hours, people were like, I want someone to kill Clancy. And it's this like different assignment of no, oh, maybe Ephraim will kill him. Ooh, I want Diggs to kill him.
I feel like beating his ass into the dust is more satisfying than having him just get killed in a combat.
Totally that. And as this other identically masked figure has this bow leveled at your face, I mean, this is it. You can't help but think about Kathleen for a moment, because this arrow is level with your eye. And you see the person draws back even harder and then unnotches the arrow and says, "You always were awful with a crossbow." Pulls off the mask, and you recognize the beautiful firelit face of Rovira.
And I just say, shit.
That's what I was thinking. And it is Garrick's turn in the combat.
All right, so I've scrambled up the stairs, and I like literally scrambled. Like when I came out of these stairs, I was sliding across the floor. And but I'm back up on my feet, and I'm looking around. The chaos is, these guys have come up. There's just chaos, and I'm standing back, and I'm just kind of like eyes darting everywhere. Can I see the person who I hit the first time?
Yeah, if you turn around, you would see that in the tangle of bodies, topped by Diggs, there's a guy with his chest sort of popping out of this trap door, and he's looking right at you. He's sort of surprised, like, what's happening?
He probably can't feel it, but I feel like he's still crackling. I have this weird feeling. And I just kind of let that power surge once again. And I roll a 2 again.
So I imagine that it's sort of, I think it fires, but without focus, if that makes sense. So you kind of, it's more of this combustion in front of you rather than this directed blast. So it doesn't projectile. And in that moment, you see Piotr hold up his dismembered head and sort of shake it, like doing that, mocking you.
Yeah. And I so I see this, and I'm like, oh, I can, I'm not not nailing it here. And I imagine I'm pretty close to the bar, and I actually I jump over the bar, trying to like basically hide from this guy.
Totally. So what I'll let you do is give me either an athletics or some sort of dexterity check to hop from this position where you're trying to shoot this blast of magic, turn on a dime and jump over the bar. So I'll let you do it. If you fail, don't forget, seam DC of 12. If you fail, you're just kind of a sitting duck up on the bar, trying to clamber over it.
All right, so what kind of check was that again?
Anything that you could use, athletics, dexterity, anything that makes sense.
Yeah, so I rolled an 11, so just missing it.
So you just miss it,
yep.
And you can describe to me what it looks like, because you're not quite over the bar, but you're maybe mostly or almost over the bar, but you're still...
Right, so I imagine I actually like... I put my leg up on the shelf, and there's a shelf under the bar to kind of leverage myself, and the shelf just collapses. So I'm just kind of hanging there with my arms on the bar like that.
That's perfect.
Glasses and bottles just go smashing to the ground.
Yeah. It's now time for the savic grunts to go, and they have bows, but they kind of see now it's a tangle. It's a mess. It's not too bright in here, and they probably wouldn't just fire into the darkness at their friends. It's dim. So they all sort of stow bows or drop bows and draw steel. And so as they do that, two of them charge toward the bar, just charging, while the other two go to flank it. So two of them charge directly toward where you are, Garrick, and where Diggs is and all that stuff. So then the other two sort of go around to attempt to flank. Rudy, what are you doing at this point?
So Rudy is muted. So Rudy, seeing all this happen, seeing more and more people just coming out, has no idea what's going on at all. Just a bunch of people, like I said, like everything he thought is happening. He's like, of course this was an ambush. Of course, he's thinking to himself, why did I trust anybody at all? He's like, who just gets a tavern? Like, oh, I just drink whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And he's kind of kicking himself. But he's also going to color spray the living crap out of the two guys that are kind of nearest to him. So as he's doing that, he kind of, like with a flourish of his hands, he kind of throws out this color spray at two of the people. And I actually pre-rolled. I get like a bunch of D10s, like 6 D10. That's the same deal where they take 6 D10 damage. No, it's the same deal where it's their hit points in, I think, ascending order. Basically, that amount of people for one round are blinded. So if the two people have less than 28, I think is what I got. If they have less than that, they're both blinded. If not, then I guess just one of them is blinded. But basically, I'm going to color spray the crap out of them.
They are both blinded, and that color spray isn't pretty. It's not pretty. So just describe to me what it looks like, because to me, it's not some fancy rainbow that looks divided up like the...
I imagine it looks like clay. It's like mud. Like a little bit, I threw Georgia clay at them. Like it was.
Are you doing stop motion color spray? Stop motion color spray.
it wasn't like, I think back to like Baldur's Gate when you would do color spray. It was like this huge, like all these different colors and stuff. And like you said, it was like a rainbow. And I'm like, no, it's like sort of a sludge. I don't know.
It's like, have you ever mixed the colors on a watercolor set? Like, have you ever mixed them? It doesn't look like a pretty rainbow all mixed together.
Yeah, you get that ugly gray that just kind of takes over. It's like that. I'm like, yeah, kind of. It's like dust. It's colored dust.
And it's absolutely blinds them. So two of them now who were probably, do you want to choose the two that were charging the bar or the two that were trying to flank? I'll let you pick.
I imagine I would keep going for. He probably wouldn't even have realized that the other door opened. If two more, all the people, he put two to sleep coming out from under the bar, and then the other two that came up, he would color spray them.
Gotcha. So those two are technically, Diggs clipped them. He jumped over the bar and sort of like knocked them over. And then, so if you did that, then Diggs might also be blinded too, and we're having a repeat. I'm just making sure you're clear where Diggs is.
Oh yeah, I forgot
in this scenario.
So you would absolutely do what you did. Don't
think
worry
you would.
about me, buddy.
No, I would. I guess I didn't realize. Like, wouldn't he be knocked over? Would the color spray be able to hit him? Or they're not prone behind the bar?
So there's two dudes prone behind the bar. If you want to shoot them, you can, and that's 24 worth of hit points because they basically have 12 hit points each. So that would work. The dude sleeping would be the easiest targets.
I know. I guess what I mean, I just assumed they got knocked over, like they were behind the bar. I don't know. I misunderstood. That's my bad. But I would absolutely shoot at them. But it's in basically the people who have the most hit points first go first. So if Barker has more hit points than one of them would, then he's blinded first, and then the next in descending order.
Barker, do you have more than 12 hit points?
Yes, I do.
Then you are blinded.
Okie dokie.
There you go. And then the other dude who had his head sticking out, this guy that's...
Okay, so I lied. It's the opposite for this spell. Sleep, I think, is the other way. The color spray is lowest hit points up. Starting with the creature that has the lowest hit points and going up.
Lucky
so the weakest ones before.
important minor detail.
This is good.
So Diggs, describe to me what it looks like as you get color sprayed and it doesn't affect you.
I imagine I'm on top of this guy that somehow I've emerged kind of on top of our scuffle that has gone to ground. And the reason I don't get sprayed in the face is because I'm getting sprayed in the back, and it's just kind of dripping off of me, this brown gray sludge, almost like we're fighting in a mud pit, trying to gouge each other's eyes out, or strangle him before he strangles me, that sort of thing.
So the following thing is, as this color spray, this sludge just sort of goes over Diggs and just runs down his face. And I imagine that Diggs is so intent doing the things you're saying, the strangulation and all that stuff, that it's just your eyes are open. It's like running down.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Just like it's your eyelashes are sticking together with James's Georgia mud. So you're choking these guys.
An Adagio for strings moment for sure.
Yes, and it is now your turn.
Awesome. Well, I would like to see if I can. All right, so I see these two guys are about to be on me, right? They're charging me, and two are going after Garrick. I want to get this one that I'm dealing with now. I want to get him out of the picture before those other two get to me. Is there any way I can hit him, roll with him in a way that would make us roll down the stairs back into the basement, into that dark room, or
you're
where we
a big
can
enough dude.
finish our fight?
You're a big enough dude that if you're rolling somewhere, everyone's rolling with you. So from here, I'll just let you do that with your body. There's no strength check when you're dealing with sheer physics downstairs with a man the size of Diggs. So you and two people go down back into the room. Take a D4 bludgeoning damage.
See, Tim acted like he was doing me a favor but in truth, he said two people went with me. So I still have one more than I wanted to have to deal with. I'm like the penguin in Mario, dude. When I roll, like Tim said, everybody rolls with me. All right, so I took a 4. The most I could.
Thank you, D4.
If it matters, for the record, I now have under 12. So just in case that needs to happen again with your color spray or sleep.
Shoot you with a spell. That's great. That's good.
Feeling tired? You're going to go to sleep next.
So probably about a block away from this tavern, Rupert's Quarry, and Rovira, Matt, stands before Ephraim, your childhood sweetheart, who you left 3 years ago, is standing in front of you. What the heck, bro?
I drop the crossbow. And I stand up, and I'm sort of standing over Clancy's unconscious form. There's still blood dripping from my fist. What the hell is going on?
We were here to kill the man who killed Savic Stain's brother. And when I saw it was you, I missed on purpose.
Wait, hang on. Whoa. Savic Stain's brother?
Yes, we know the whole story. I watched as it was recreated by a magicker in front of my eyes.
His name
I saw
was
what you
Stain.
did.
Oh, and while she's talking, Ephraim's like, oh, shit. I didn't realize he was his brother. No, yeah, no, I killed him. Yeah, I killed him. Rovira, he was trying to crucify me. Did they show you that part?
Yes, we saw the whole thing. Your burly friend smashed his face, and then you stabbed him in the throat with some sort of trick.
Yeah, magic. I used magic, and I killed him.
Well, the bill comes due. I'm not the only one here. Your friends, they're going to kill me. Your friends are in the middle of an ambush. You were supposed to stay there.
Oh, no. I went with Clancy to make sure that he wasn't going to rat us out. I had no idea that he was the one that was. Did you shoot my friend? Did you shoot Kathleen? Was that you?
No, that was
Oh.
Clancy. The arrow that was flying for your head, that missed you by inches, that was me, because I recognized you, you idiot.
I sort of kneel down towards Clancy, and I know he's unconscious, but I say, you better be glad I didn't know it was you before I started pummeling you, or you'd be dead right now. And I stand back up. Okay, what do we do?
Hate you for this. But if you care about the people in that bar, we need to go. We need to help them. There's half a dozen of Savic's thugs waiting. We were sent to clean up the mess and make sure the job gets done. I was paid to kill you.
How? Just out of curiosity, how much?
You never change. Come on, we need to go.
And I would sort of pick up my crossbow and kick Clancy in the ribs. And as I'm sort of jogging towards her, I would say, how do I know I can trust you?
I didn't kill you, did I?
That's fair. Okay, yeah, let's go.
And Matt, take a point of inspiration for the, out of curiosity, how much? That is true Ephraim right there, baby.
He would want to know.
That's so good, man. That's perfect. So take a point of inspiration.
Awesome,
And,
will do.
I'll say that because no one's stopping you or hindering you, you're able to quickly get to the front sort of porch of the bar.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I have a, because of my urchin background, this thing called City Secrets, where I can travel twice as fast through cities. Because I like cut through alleyways and ratways, and I know how to navigate towns and cities.
I want to use a really cool usage of that, especially because you know this place. I want to make, if you would like to, I will allow it so that you know the buildings nearby and you're able to climb up into the loft. So you can start the combat in the loft and enter the initiative order with Rovira up there versus having to come through the door.
Yeah, I imagine that's how Clancy and I used to enter to steal the bottles of green stuff. There's a building next door that has a gutter that is sturdy enough to hold the weight of a single person. And so Rovira is kind of jogging right towards the front door, and I sort of grab her arm and say, come on. And I like come up, I scale this gutter, and there's, I go, I hope it's still here. I hope it's still here. And there's like a board on the top of that building. And I go, yes. And I grab the board and I create a bridge across to the other building that Clancy and I left there to get into the loft.
It's perfect. And so now you can do that. And what I'll do is I'm going to roll Rovira's initiative. And then if you want to roll, I'll insert you as you come in wherever you land. So just let me know what you roll. Okay. So Mr. Barker, if you could would you be a dear and update my initiative?
I will.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So we are starting back up at the top of the initiative order. And that would actually be Garrick.
So there are two guys charging me, and they are not the ones who are blinded, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The ones who are blinded are behind the bar, and Diggs has taken them into the basement. So there are two sleeping guys behind the bar, two guys charging you, and then two guys sort of charging the bar to make heads or tails of all this.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, so are these guys engaged with me yet or not yet?
No, I wouldn't say yet.
Okay. Then I'm going to try once again to leap over the bar here. So I'll roll for that once again.
I'll let you just do it since you were halfway over and your arms were hanging. Like, okay. You can just, if you want to just do a regular, like you can take a 5-foot move in your movement because you already did the work of kind of hitting it, sliding. So that's fine.
Cool. So I imagine I kind of skid over this bar. And I basically have my back against a wall, I imagine now. and I'm going to try my luck once again as I fire this bolt at this guy. And that's a little better. That's 11 damage as this, again, my hair kind of stands up on edge and just, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling like, okay, whoa.
That's perfect. And I think that 11 damage, because of the hit point pool, especially, I believe that it hits him and just knocks him back. He's dead. The guy you hit is dead against the wall. And I think there's probably the smell of this burnt flesh. And even perhaps where the spell hit, that sort of crater, there's this little patch of like plant life growing from it. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I imagine that, as after I do this, I'm just like kind of wide-eyed, like, whoa. And there's this crackling lightning that just kind of like works its way back down my staff toward my hand.
That's so good. I love that. Excellent. All right. The thugs now, the two of them that are blinded, essentially they can't see, and so they'll automatically fail any kind of checks they're trying to do. Diggs, I'm going to make you on top of them, and they're trying just good old-fashioned strength checks, but they can't. They're sort of pushing blindly at what they can't see.
Awesome.
So you've successfully incapacitated the two in the cellar. The two are still sleeping, so they can't act. And then one just got murked by Garrick. So the other two who are trying to flank here are going to try to just get their hands on Rudy. So Rudy, one of them sort of squares up with you, and then the other one tries to get on the other side of you. And so now you're sort of surrounded. And we're going to go ahead and do it this way. The first one hits for 6 damage. Second one misses. So you take 6 damage. I want you to tell me where that sword hits you and what it looks like.
Okay, real quick, I have 2 questions.
Tell me your questions.
One, we did take a rest before all this, or we still have not rested?
I would count what you did as a short rest.
So I can use a hit die to gain HP.
You absolutely can. And in fact, if all of you, I would say in the water drinking and that whole scene, all of you could take a hit die back and gain any sort of mechanical benefits that you would from a short rest automatically. Yeah, you can do that and say that it was done during that.
Okay. You also mentioned that we leveled up.
Yes.
So the important thing is, do I roll that, take average, or maximum? I meant to ask you that. Didn't matter until now.
I typically do maximum.
Okay.
But it's entirely up to you.
Well, I wanted to make sure because in the interest of transparency, my last hit point total was 3. So if we didn't rest, you just killed me.
Oh, gotcha. I would say
like
that you would,
between all of that stuff.
I would say you would at least get a hit die back. So why don't we do it this way? If you want to make it fun and fair, roll your hit die and see where you would have been, and then we'll see if you drop or not.
I would have been at 4. I rolled my hit die and got 1. Oh, plus my constitution though, right? Modifier?
Yes, plus your con.
Oh god, okay. So no, yeah, so I still think I'm dropped because I had 3 and that would be 5.
Okay. So
that's
describe
8.
to me what it looks like as Rudy is stabbed and drops in this bar.
So basically sorry, I need to do math, but I need to describe you as well. So Rudy, the people are coming from everywhere, and these 2 people come running up the stairs, and like you said, I imagine like Rudy does kind of like a flourish of his hand, and 2 of them fall asleep, and then the sludge gets all over everyone, and they're blinded and they can't see, and suddenly like Rudy turns and the music stops, and it's like on his face, and it pans down, and there's just like a sword in his gut or like a dagger, whatever they have. It's just like right in there, and he kind of looks, and the thought that, in the beginning when he was being crucified, he was almost okay with his death then. He was kind of coming to terms with it, and he figured it's as good a way as any to go. He's had a long run. But he's slowly been sort of like regaining that, not a new lease on life, but just like he's found friends and they're doing stuff. And now he's staring at just the blood like pouring out of his gut, you know, through this tablecloth that he's wearing. And he's really sad as he falls down unconscious.
Rudy is cold as he falls. So I would say that the other thug just sort of kicks you. Just, ugh. And you're a bleeding, feeble old man. He's not going to like cut your head off or anything. There are bigger threats happening. And so he would move toward Garrick. And so Garrick, this other thug with this scar on his face, probably his lip. Maybe someone fish hooked him, you know, so he's got this gnarly scar up the side of his mouth. And he comes at you and there's no finesse. It's just, he sees that you're weak and he's just trying to hack down at you. And so, okay, that's a hit for four damage, 4 slashing damage. So from this point, Rovira is confused as to what to do. But when she sees the thugs below, one of them looks up and sees her. So her presence is known, but they don't attack her. They think that she's here to help them. So she's in an interesting situation. So what I'm going to do, to be fair, is I'm actually going to do like a will save sort of thing, whether she helps Ephraim or jumps in the fight and the nostalgia fades. Okay. She looks at you, Ephraim. She says, "Damn you, Ephraim Seidler." And as quickly as you've ever seen, she draws an arrow and looses it at one of the people who she's here with. She does hit, and he drops. Poetically and maybe subconsciously, the arrow hits him in the eye as he drops dead. Ephraim, what do you do? Sorry, Rudy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Rudy needs to make a death saving
throw.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think I do much of anything.
Got to give me that death save.
It's just flat D20, 10 or higher. I've never actually made a death save. Yeah, so I failed my first death save with an 8.
All right.
No, you don't add Constitution or anything, right?
Nope.
No, I've never filled these circles in.
It's exciting.
It's pretty damn exciting. I'm like bleeding on the floor. Like this is awesome.
Your fate has been decided by the Titans. So yes. Now, Ephraim, what do you do?
So I can't help but smirk just a little bit when Rovira says, "Damn you, Ephraim Seidler," because I haven't heard that in a while, and so I sort of smirk a little bit. And we're sort of standing on the loft. You said we entered, via the loft, and I'm looking down, and I see Rudy on the ground. What is the rest of the layout of this thing? How many thugs are still up and moving and fighting?
So they're up and moving and fighting. There are 2.
2, okay.
But for you, there are also 2 that look, you probably think that they were unconscious as far as the ones asleep. And then, I don't know it's dark now, relatively. You probably wouldn't see Diggs and the other 2 in the cellar.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I see these guys standing over Rudy, and like Rudy's my friend. He's a bit standoffish. He's a bit weird, but he also represents maybe my only chance of learning a little bit more about my magical abilities. And so seeing him laying on the ground, with a pool of blood sort of growing around him, I I immediately draw my blade, flick it up, and I'm going to try and drop down on one of these guys and do a sneak attack, just trying to drive my sword into him from on high.
Awesome.
So we'll see how this goes.
So awesome.
Oh no, that can't be good. Okay, there we go. All right, so that'll be 16. So that beats your DC of 12. So that's 9.
Yeah, but what was the roll before you said, "Oh no, that can't be good"?
No, the die came off the back of the tower and went off the table. Is what happened.
So I didn't hear the beautifully musical ding.
Yeah, it's because I reached a little bit too far back and it bounced off the back lip. So with the sneak attack, Tim, that'll be 14 slashing damage.
So since you're taking all of the hit points from this person, this is a kill. This is a kill shot. So as you fall, where are you aiming and what does this look like?
So I imagine this guy's standing over Rudy. He's sort of looking down and his neck, the back of his neck is exposed. And so I come down and actually my hand hits first. I get him in I have my hand on his shoulder, and then I don't even really stab down with the sword. I let the weight of my fall just drive the sword down through his neck, and maybe it comes out the other side of his neck. And I sort of drive him to the ground and am landing on top of him with the sword through his neck.
And as the two of you hit the floor, the sword sort of goes in between the floorboards. It doesn't stick, but it's definitely fit in there snug. And you're there, and as you're holding this sword heaped on top of this person, you look down and you see your own reflection in your mother's sword with flecks of blood in it. Diggs, you're in the basement with two dudes. What's the sitch?
Show me things I never thought I'd hear before or ever. So what Diggs is going to do is, if you'll allow me to take some creative liberties, he's going to reach up on the wall of this cellar and he's going to pull a mattock, just a big mattock off of the wall. And he's going to use his bonus action to go into a rage. These two kids almost underneath him, he will scream, "Defend yourselves!" And he will bring that down onto the throat of the one on the left. He is trying to kill. Yes. Unbelievable. Now, I have a question for you. Do you think a mattock can be swung with one hand?
Sure. By Diggs?
Because I'm thinking
a mattock can be used to eat a meal. I'm saying yes.
No.
By Diggs, I'm saying yes.
No. Oh, got it. Okay,
You're so big that you could use a mattock as a toothpick. Is what I'm saying.
For sure. So that's perfect. Do you want to reskin it as a battle axe or something that's versatile, so I could use it with two hands, so it's not as heavy as something bigger? I mean, what do you think?
That's
it could go less too. I don't care.
No, that's great.
All right, but I rolled an 8, which is awful either way. 9, 10, and see, this is what I look like when I'm not prepared. I don't think I hit the 12. Oh no, I have proficiency to my attack. It's so okay. That would be exactly a 12. If
I'd say yes, and here's why. You were known in the Dismembered Lord's army as the well digger. I think you'd know your way around digging tools.
Yeah, no, I am proficient in mattock for sure.
Yeah, I'm proficient in matlock. So yes, I would say that this thing, you do use it. You can use it one-handed, and you said you were going for the throat.
Yeah, and in this case, I'm using it two-handed for sure. And the damage would be 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. 10 damage.
So, and it's unfortunate, and this is a Dragongrin game, folks. So I gotta make it sting. This can't just be,
Yep.
A big burly thug that's as big as Diggs. No, this is a wiry young man. It's not a kid. It's not a man. Right in the middle, sort of trying to work his way up through the Savic family. You know, it's this wiry young kid, and he's there, and this pickaxe ends him messily. And so there's still one more there, sort of groggy, like with Dig's boot print on his face. So
now I don't think I would do anything else. I'm not sure. I'm so used to playing the fighter that I was like, screw it, let's end this other guy too. But I don't think I can. So I drool poetically.
And poetically it is. So Garrick, it's back to you, my man.
So one of the thugs that rushed me got blasted. The other one is still...
There's essentially still one squaring off at you, and the one that was just that ended Rudy was just run through the throat by Ephraim. So there's still one directly in front of you, sort of squaring off, trying to slice at you messily. Okay.
Yeah, so I imagine, let's see here. Actually, yeah, I'm just gonna, so he's squaring off, and I'm kind of holding my quarterstaff in a defensive way, and I'm actually just gonna lunge at him and try to take a crack at him with my quarterstaff. And I'm gonna use my inspiration. All right, so that is a 17 to hit, so that'll hit. And let's see, I think the quarterstaff is versatile, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I know that because it's on my sheet.
Nice. That is going to be 5 damage. So I imagine I just kind of sneak past his defenses here, and just kind of jab him right in the chest with this thing.
Totally. And I know you know, especially growing up, you spent a lot of time in the forests of the long fields, just practicing with this bow. You know, you've used this quite a bit. And so that knocks the breath out of him, just like, so he's absolutely not expecting it as he sort of staggers back. So there's not as much of a face-to-face close quarters combat anymore. You kind of knocked him back 5 feet.
Cool.
Now, would you like to move or do anything else?
I imagine I might actually try to move to, if I can, there's this loft, right? And Ephraim is still up there?
For sure. Well, he jumped down.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I imagine I try to move over to where he is if I can, just to kind of strengthen numbers sort of thing.
Perfect. And I'll allow you to do that without any attacks of opportunity because this guy's like, so you're able to just skirt past him, and within 15 to 25 feet, you're now kind of standing next to Ephraim, who's on the ground with his sword through the throat of one of these thugs from the Savic family.
Awesome.
Perfect. So next is the thugs. So this thug is like, and he's going to try to use his movement, and he's going to try to close the distance. But I think that as he does this and he looks around, sees the blood. Okay, super outnumbered at this point for the door. So he's going to do his best to sort of run through the middle of the room. So I think, Ephraim, you'd probably get an attack of opportunity, but no one else would. So if you want to take that for me and let me know.
No, I whiffed it. Got an 11. Oh, you know what?
So-
I'm going to use my inspiration.
Yeah,
There we go. 16.
perfect. So describe to me.
5. Oh,
No. Sorry, you tell me the damage.
it would be 6 damage.
Okay, 6 damage, basically, because
I think you just got muted, Tim. I don't know what happened there.
oh, sorry. So I was going to say, describe to me what it looks like as this thug tries to run past you. And I want to include the whiff. Sort of like he's trying to run past you, like you're playing tag. Like he tries to run, and you sort of, and I think though you're very quick. So how do you finish him off as he's trying to flee from you?
So yeah, he's running past me. I hear him coming, and I drag the sword out of this guy. You know, it's not as easy to pull a sword out of a body as they show in like movies and stuff. Like I wrench the sword out of this guy's body, and I do it sluggishly. And so I sort of swipe at him a little too early, and he just runs past me. And can I say that like I just get frustrated and I just throw the sword, and because it's a short distance, it just goes end over end and sort of sticks in his back, and he falls face forward. And Ephraim has this look on his face like he wasn't expecting that to work. He was just kind of doing it out of frustration. So he's like, oh, and the guy just falls face first with the sword just kind of wobbling in his back.
I was hoping you would throw it, but I wasn't going to make you or suggest it. So I was like, oh, but that's so perfect. And I just see it. And it's probably the only sound in the bar at this point. Rudy is bleeding out, and there's one more thug unconscious under the stairs, and we are out of initiative order.
Can I handle that thug downstairs really quick?
You sure can. He is incapacitated. It would be quick work for Diggs.
The sound, the last sound they both hear is the thump right above them where the last body fell, where Ephraim felled that final thug. And he, as this at the tail end of his rage, this rage that has bound him to the earth like it was some sort of meditation, the thing that he could always return to and have control over, as it begins to subside, he realizes this person's life is in his hands. He could do whatever he wanted, and nobody up top would know that he had this moment. And I imagine this soldier, this gangster, is still groggy, but makes eye contact shortly with Diggs. But neither this thug on the ground or Diggs himself know truly what the hell is wrong with Jeremiah Diggs, and he, in swift work, kills this kid, this young man.
And it's messy, and it's quick.
And then he walks back up the stairs.
Upstairs, Ephraim sort of takes a moment to catch his breath, and then he remembers Rudy laying there, and he sort of crawls across the floor to Rudy and rolls him over and does the like, ooh, when he rolls him over because he sees this knife just sticking out of him, and he's like, oh, and I'm going to try my best to do a medicine check to stabilize him here. It actually won't be too bad. Okay, here we go. Nah. Oh, that's a 10, baby. That's a 10.
Yeah.
Stabilize, sucker.
Perfect. So Rudy is stabilized, but certainly bleeding out.
Yeah, and what I imagine is that Ephraim does little more than just wrap like cloth around the knife. So he's no longer bleeding, but there's still a knife in his gut. And Ephraim is like, I don't want to pull that out and kill him, so I'm just going to leave it there for now. And he also takes a hearty swig of whatever liquor is nearest to him.
And as you do so you reach to take a hearty swig of the liquor, and you can't help but wince as you see that the jar of water was knocked over and is shattered on the ground.
No.
And the blood is mingling with the water. Rudy's blood and these other thugs' blood is sort of mingling with the water, and it's running into the floorboards, and you can hear the basement just...
And I guess the person closest to me is Garrick, so I look at him and go, you okay, man?
Yes, I'm out of breath. I'm okay. Who is
Oh,
now I can't remember her name. Is she still around?
yeah, is Revere still around?
So you would look up to the loft,
Rovira?
and she would be gone.
Oh, dang, son.
Okay, so I would say, who was that with you up there?
That was the past coming back to haunt me. Clancy tried to kill me. I got the jump on him. I think he's alive. I beat him pretty bad. I kind of lost track of time. I think I broke a couple fingers. We should probably go pick him up, make sure he doesn't run off.
And
Should.
Rudy, like lying on the ground, like you said, you tied this, or you like wrapped it around, like you kind of packed it in around this blade. And I'm just kind of like, and like just kind of like a jerk. You say that, all that happens, and Rudy is kind of like trying to get your attention, like, and he says like half of it. He's like, "Sunny days," he's kind of like, you get it, like, dude, like sharing in the frustration of we all kind of knew it, but like, what do you do? Would you just not trust anybody? So he gives you a hard time for that.
And I would kind of slump on the floor, and I'm just, the sword is still kind of wobbling in that corpse, and I'm just looking at it. I thought at worst he might tip somebody off. I didn't know he was the one that shot Kathleen. That's what she said anyway. He was the one that did it.
And just sort of a groan, like, oh, like remembering the time that he spent, with this guy that did what he did after we buried our friend. And it's just like that Dragongrin feeling, like that Boston song about it. Like, you've got that Dragongrin feel. I don't think that's a Boston song.
That's not Boston.
That is the Righteous Brothers of Sphere Below.
Just that sort of thing.
It's a meme. Hashtag that Dragongrin feeling when your when your childhood friend kills your party member.
Dragongrin goals, baby. That's wait, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, just like Rudy kind of runs through all the time they spent with him, and just thinks like, like what a disgusting person,
When you mention Kathleen, I think after a short moment, Diggs will get up and he'll walk to kind of the center of this room, and he'll take this mattock and he'll just slam it into the ground so it sticks. And he says, "It's only a matter of time before we all end up with our own epitaphs." And he thinks about that carved K. And he says, "But until that moment, for the people in this room, you're the ones I trust. I'll die before that happens."
Same here. And he kind of like reaches. He's just like reaching out for everybody. I feel like I'm in a hospital bed, but instead it's just a dusty floor covered in blood and other people. But it's just like, like just shares the sentiment, but like, oh man, this is going to hurt tomorrow.
Yeah, and Garrick kind of, for the first time, feels where he got cut and pulls his hand away from his arm. There's blood there. I imagine I kind of take my pack out and just try to find some piece of fabric or something like that and quickly bandage it up and say, we should go and look for Clancy. Hopefully he didn't get away.
Yeah, I should probably go make sure. Maybe she might have grabbed him. I kind of look at Garrick and say, "You want to come with me? Make sure we don't get jumped."
Yes.
So I'll sort of head out the front door, leading Garrick. And Tim, I'd like to, use that city secrets thing again to get back to where Clancy and I fought as quickly as possible.
And I would even say that in doing so, you're able to take an alternate route so that you would be hidden, not coming up in plain sight, and you're able to do it quickly. And you can see that there's a tipped over lantern and a bunch of dust and some spatters of blood and He's nowhere to be found.
And I kick the lantern. Son of a bitch. I knew he wasn't going to be here. I had to check. And I would look at Garrick and just say, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I thought if I could trust anyone, it would be the guy who stole my girlfriend. Why would I think that that would be a good idea? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Let's go back.
Yeah. And so there's nothing. You said there was just the lantern, and they didn't leave anything else.
No, it's
Okay.
just they know what they're doing.
Right. So yeah, I would go. Garrick and I would just head back then.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you go.
Okay. And I imagine I would want to check out that room. I guess the lower level, I should say. And just see what's going on down there. If there's more hidden areas, or anything like that.
And when it's my turn, I want to go check out the lower level too. I'm really happy I let you go first there, Nate.
Can we hold hands?
In fact, I'm going to do it in a cool way and pull the mattock back and pry open a wood plank to do it dramatically, and then I'm going to do it like 9 more times.
Just want to make a really wide entrance here.
So as you go down into this room, this is a room that they must have used often. So what you've actually found was probably like a savic family safe house or, murder house, whatever it is. So underneath there is a planning room. There's a table. There's plans, maps, and specifically, it looks like there are a couple of chests in the corner and a couple of cabinets.
I would like to open the cabinet. A cabinet.
So you go to, you do that and it's locked.
Do you think sorry, go ahead.
I would just say to Diggs, looks like this one is locked.
Diggs picks up his mattock and attempts to solve that problem. On all the cabinets, if possible.
And you do so quickly. And so there's 2 cabinets, 2 chests, and then what looks like maybe a sliding sort of door. And you sort of make short work of all of it with that mattock. The wood's old, and it's locked as more of a formality, I think.
Ephraim's pulling out his lock picks.
He's like,
but clunk, clunk.
So inside of here, you see that it's rations, water, some different patchwork, but nice and kept pieces of armor. There's also weapons of various kinds, different ammunition for weapons and things of that nature. So this must have been, kept their things if they needed to come here, gear up, and go out and take care of something. So you stumbled upon a fortune in Dragongrin, essentially.
Diggs is packing stuff into a pack. I am maybe if it'd be cool, I might be able to build like a Dungeoneers or a explorer's pack or something out of the materials.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. There's plenty of stuff.
But actually, halfway through packing this bag, he looks to Garrick and says, "Now, how safe do you think we are here? Because we might want to stay."
I don't think we want to do that. They know this place. They used it.
Of course they did. Look how damn useful it is. I'm just saying maybe it could be useful for us.
I don't know. there have to have been more people who came here and left and know, and I don't think we killed everyone who knew about this.
After a long moment, he nods and says, "No, you're probably right. I've had a lot of stupid ideas lately."
Keep them coming. Ideas are ideas. I mean, let's work on this chest here. And I go and
That's
I would
what he said.
try
And
to-
yeah, and you go, "Yep, let's open the chest."
So
Oh,
in it,
I'm sorry. I think it's legs day. My bad.
Spot me, bro.
it's leg day.
It's legs day.
Oh god, that was the perfect way to say it too, as Garrick. Oh, it's legs day. So this would essentially be where they kept the money, but in Dustmouth, this is a double locked chest, and you shatter it open, and in there, you see carefully canteened water. And this is the equivalent of finding, like I said, a box of rubies or gold in the Dustmouth. And so it's enough for a while.
Nice.
And
This is very good. Very good.
And it would be difficult to carry around. I'm just saying it's worth a conversation when we see the rest of them.
It's a big town. I think we could probably find another place. I don't know, but
Yeah, maybe.
it's a small town. What am I talking about?
It's Blint. What are we talking about here?
And I imagine that while Diggs and Garrick are downstairs sort of grabbing gear and stuff, Ephraim is just sitting upstairs with Rudy, and I imagine Rudy is still laying there kind of like with the dagger in his gut, and Ephraim's sitting on a bench near him, just doing that, like spinning his sword on the ground, like spinning the pommel of it so that the blade spins in the ground. We're gonna have to find someone that can stitch you up.
Yeah. So hopefully someone that won't betray us. And Rudy kind of makes the point, like, yeah, it's hard enough to find a normal person in Dragongrin, let alone a normal person that will help you.
If she hadn't just exposed herself as a assassin, I would suggest that we go to Creaking Tree and find my old girlfriend, but clearly that's not going to happen. But Creaking Tree is the nearest town, and at least before I left, they had an apothecary.
Well, based on what your friend said, that's where the stains are. I guess Rudy wouldn't know anything about the crime family, right? He wouldn't know that we killed Donovan or anything, so he wouldn't know that. So he'd probably be like, yeah, he's down. But isn't that where like their home base is, basically?
Pretty much.
That was what he said to him. Meta knowledge, what he said earlier. So I guess Rudy wouldn't know that, but he would be like, yeah, that sounds good to me. But he would just be nervous, just generally paranoid to go to a populated place after having been almost crucified.
Yeah, and Ephraim would definitely share the concern, but he would say we'd be going deeper into the heart of whoever's looking to kill us, but there'd be more people, easier to hide. I know the city better. We can go if we want, but I'm done suggesting ideas because I'm the one who got us into this mess.
Well, you make some good points, but... And Rudy kind of thinks for a minute. He says, I think we all did... We all got ourselves into this mess. You were up on a cross, same as me. And I know we haven't really talked about why that was, and he looks kind of down at this sort of dagger he's kind of holding, feeling it almost become a part of him. Like, still hurts like hell, but it's becoming a little too normal to have something, stuck in his gut. Maybe now's not the time either, but, well, don't put it all on yourself, young man.
Yeah. Well, knowing me, I probably will, but I appreciate the sentiment at least. Well, maybe we can grab what supplies we can and... Shit, I don't know how we're going to move you without killing you.
And just sort of Rudy goes to breathe in to sigh, and at some point, like about halfway or 3/4, he kind of like sort of winces, like, and kind of coughs, like, oh, neither do I.
I wonder if they had any like bandages or thread and needle downstairs. Maybe we could. Yeah, I might be able to stitch it up a little bit. I've never worked on a wound like that before, but we could at least get you transportable. We'll see what Garrick and Diggs bring up for us.
Oh, yes, those two. And he'd kind of like look around, like, oh, they must be down there. I'm sure his blood is sort of, whatever they're doing, his blood is dripping down on them or into the room somewhere. He's in a pool of it at this point.
Well, I think they're probably finding stuff to bring up because I've heard the sound that can only be a pickaxe against a padlock. So I'm assuming they're breaking into stuff down there.
Hopefully it's more than just good liquor.
And we could use some of that too, though.
You guys would see Garrick's head rising from the staircase here as I'm walking up and saying, there's a lot down here, including water.
That's good. Any medical supplies, bandages, needle and thread, anything like that? And I kind of look at Rudy and say, I don't think we can move him.
We can probably find something like that down here. There's a lot.
Let's hope so.
And so would Ephraim, are you going to follow him down and try to find some medical supplies?
Yeah, I would definitely rummage around and try to find just basically the basic necessities for getting him so that he can take a mechanical long rest and get some HP back if we can find some bandages or something.
Yeah, for sure. And I think at this point, either Garrick or Diggs would have probably lit a lantern down there, one of the many, And so there's sort of light here, and as you walk down the stairs, you see this wall, and it sort of catches your eye, and there's a bunch of clutter on it. So there is sort of a long standing desk at the wall, and there are all kinds of papers and ledgers and things like that, and pins and things like that around it. But there's this area in the wall that's got several things pinned to it with little tags. And the reason why you notice it immediately is because it has an insignia that you recognize from your mom's battalion in Lightfall. And so as you look closer at this wall, you see that it looks like the savic family, at least these thugs or this house, has these sort of very small, not very powerful, but more like tchotchke fallen heroes of Lightfall. You see that the entire wall is covered in just armor, this broken pommel of a sword, this kind of thing. And there are all these labels from these different heroes of Lightfall. One of them in particular catches your eye, and it is this, looks like a coin on a necklace. It just says Carlin. And the rope or chain is affixed to this coin is bloody. And that's hanging on the wall. And then you see some medical supplies and things like that further down.
I would sort of fixate on this coin. I would walk up to it and kind of look at it closer, and I'd look down at the pommel of my sword, and the same symbol is on the bottom of this pommel, the same symbol that I was looking at as I was spinning the sword. And I kind of like look at the two of them. That's weird. And I would kind of pull it off the wall and tuck it away to take it with me and sort of take the rest of the wall in. It's one of those things where I see all of this and it's like, it's too much information for Ephraim to make any sort of hypothesis as to what it means right now. But it's like one of those like, oh, I'm going to think about this later. And he will take the coin with him and scrounge up the bandages and stuff and then head upstairs. And he'll call back to Garrick and Diggs, like, I might need some help. I've never done this before.
And Garrick, as you see Ephraim sort of walk over, and you're not stupid. You can kind of make heads and tails of this, but you start recognizing some of the names. You start recognizing some of the names. As a boy, there were people in neighboring towns who would tell stories about these heroes. And you always loved those stories. And your dad didn't really like you listening or talking about them. But you recognize at least a third, maybe more, of the names. But one especially catches your eye. And it's a hook. It looks dull, rusted. For maybe moving or packing meat. It sort of has that wooden grip, and the hook itself is screwed into it, and it's affixed to the wall, and underneath it, it just says Sulain.
And yeah, there was one trader, actually, merchant in particular, who would come to Dustmouth, the town near our mill, and he would tell stories. And I remember him in particular telling the story of this hero who they called the Shadow of Sulain. My eyes kind of, I'm slowly realizing this. The Shadow of Sulain was a menace to the dismembered lord's forces, and would swoop in silently, sometimes leaving foes hanging, dead, gutted, stealthy. And yeah, he had hooks and he had daggers. And I kind of pull this hook up and I just look at it, and it takes me right back there. I'm sitting on the edge of a well, as we used to do as kids. Stupid, dangerous, but that's where we used to hang out. And the merchant is there with his wagon, telling stories of the Shadow of Sulain.
And you would hear that merchant's tale, and you would hear him sort of talking about it, and the words would echo in your mind, and it says, "And he who holds the hook of Sulain takes on the mantle of Sulain. Maybe one day one of you will find the hook of Sulain." And his words sort of trail off in your mind.
So I kind of tuck it into my belt and just, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing, but it seems significant.
Is there anything else any of you would like to do or say? So as the blood of one of the Savic family members mingles with this wasted water and drips into the cellar below, it finds a small plaque on that wall. That wall full of items of heroes of Lightfall. As it drips, it finds itself. And it's this plaque that has words on it that you recognize oh so well. These were the immortalized words, said to have been spoken by the dismembered Lord himself. It was said that these words were an oath, a warning to any who would seek to rise against him. This tarnished plaque on the wall underneath here is the Epitaph of Light. And it reads, I will destroy all that rise against me, and none who oppose me shall remain. This I swear. And the plaque
You cut out the plaque what? Sorry.
and the plaque falls off the wall. You are those that remain, and we're going to end it here.
Dope.
That was awesome. Kick ass, man.
So good.
That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best session yet, definitely.
Yeah, that was my favorite of all the
My
sessions we've had.
favorite. We
Slice
had
in the
a
pieces.
Quentin Tarantino fight in a tavern. That was amazing.
We super did.
Mhm. Oh man, dude, and you
Yeah.
had so many of those moments, Tim, with the cliffhangers. The like,
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yep.
masterfully done. We split the
was-
party, and you were like, "Got it."
You're like, yeah,
I
I'm
love
gonna,
it.
I'm
I
gonna
love it.
take advantage of that. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That was an under 3.5 hour game, and that was like really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, I love that
Awesome
you
pace.
said that this is like the real kind of first session of the main arc of the campaign, and it started in a tavern, buddy boy.
It did, and that was not an accident. I was like, dude, I'm going to try to do it the biggest.
Got it.
Yep.
Yep.
That's amazing.
I can't believe I figured I did not think that my ex was gonna be an assassin trying to kill me.
That was really well
Yeah.
done.
Oh yeah.
Also,
That
That
was
was
amazing.
Yeah, that reveal.
and I trusted Clancy, like me as a person. Michael Barker here trusted Clancy. Like that was, yep, as good as it can be.
Like when he gave us the water, that was kind of like, I feel like Garrick was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad that it all worked out, because one of the things that I felt with the other sessions, as fun as they were like brand new things every time. It was like there were no connections or things drawing it all together truly. And
Yeah.
so this session was what can come back? What can we use? What pieces have these guys screwed up bad enough that it's going to just follow them? And then how can it fit together? And when I asked Matt, I was like, hey, who would be like a childhood friend of yours? And, you know, and he told me about Clancy and all that. And I didn't even think about it. And this was like 2 days ago. I was doing a live stream, and it dawned on me during the live stream. And I was like, dude, I'm so glad it went the way that it did, man. I'm really happy with the way that session turned out. I feel like we nailed the tone of this story.
Yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
sure.
Can I ask you a question about something that I caught near the beginning
Absolutely.
in the prologue? Sending the serpent's head to kill, I assume, is us. Is that who's the?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the serpent's head?
The Serpent's Head is a task force. That those are the people with the masks, essentially.
Oh,
So
you didn't have to tell me.
Oh, I thought you asked me to tell you.
No, I did. I
He
did. But I meant
He
it.
did.
Stop trying to solve the problems, Tim. I just want someone to
Oh,
listen.
no. Listen, I mean, I thought, here's the thing. I don't think that's a spoiler. I was trying to make it clear that when he was talking about, hey, I sent some people to kill them.
You're like, Barker, I'm not talking about your war maker who happens to have the snake head. Like that. I'm just making this clear.
No. It
That
was
cool
like, yeah,
didn't
so
happen.
sorry for anybody listening who's like, I didn't. Yes, the Serpent's Head was the team of bounty hunters and assassins who were supposed to come and kill
Dope.
you.
That was cool.
And my girlfriend and ex-best friend
Ex-best friend.
Dude, I almost messaged you, Matt, and was like, hey, how much? No, didn't I? I said, hey, how much liberty do I have?
You said, how much liberty do I have? And I said, go for it. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah. And as soon as you said that, I was like, all right. Because at first I was like, okay, Rovira is going to be the assassin.
Oh, yeah.
But then I thought,
yeah.
I was like, dude, she's going to be the assassin. But then I thought, no, it's much more interesting. There's so much more conflict because there were two of them.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, no, it's got to be another. I had my other convoker moment.
Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be another one.
Yeah.
And then when you said, yeah, it's this guy, and we had a fight, and maybe he ended up, I was like, oh, this is too good.
Yeah, I was like, maybe he ended up with my girl. Like maybe we had a fight over Rovira, and so there was a bit of a falling out there. Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah,
and so, yeah, so that's it, man. This is those that remain. The Dragongrin campaign that we are currently playing. Super happy with the way it turned out. You guys killed it. I never once had to say, "What are you doing?"
Those that remain is really cool, but I thought the bird watchers would have been better. But, you know, a little on the nose.
The bird watchers.
That cracked me up too. Just bird watching. You're covered in like blood and like dirt.
We're all
from
carrying
deep
like
earth.
shovels. We're just like, yeah, we're out here watching birds. We're not burying corpses.
Well,
yeah.
Matt, was that you who said bird watching, or was that you?
No,
James?
that was not me.
Yeah. It was me.
I ran with it, but that was not me.
Dude, and I'm happy you did because Heather and I have been bird watching in the jungle, and that story about how tracking birds at night, nocturnal birds, in order to find out where they sleep so you can photograph them as the sun is rising, is a story that was told to me by this guy in Belize. So it's just cool what you can create out of nothing if you collaborate with each other.
Yes, that is so cool.
So cool. It sounded so legit too. I was like, wow, Parker knows a lot about birds.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, I've been there. I've faced the trials.
Face the trial.
I love control flames. That was cool because when I was like, it's dark out, there's got to be a lantern or something because I just want to like flashbang this guy in the face and then get right up in his grill.
That was
yeah.
so
See,
cool
I thought you were going to try to put out the light, Matt, and
man.
what you did was better.
And go like
and behind him here.
Rainbow Six.
I come up behind him and put my hand over his mouth and go Rainbow Six as I'm slowly dragging him down to the ground.
Saving Private Ryan, shushing.
Yep.
Oh man. Well, we will do this again. I know we will. I feel like the campaign has a tone, and I'll admit that this right now, I'm gonna make a villain called Rainbow Six. Clancy is gonna become Rainbow Six. His call sign, build the Savic family. They're gonna color spray him permanently.
I was gonna say that's a James call sign right there.
From now on, whenever I use stealth, I'm gonna say that I'm going Rainbow Six and roll my stealth.
Going Rainbow Six.
Going Rainbow Six.
And it'll sound Rainbow Six. You have to like look straight ahead too. Don't look at the roll. Be like Rainbow Six.
So someone, multiple people in the chat have noticed that this is extra funny because an NPC's name is Clancy.
Yes,
Tom Clancy.
I didn't even put that together.
A man named Clancy, Rainbow Sixed Kathleen.
Oh,
that is the sum of all my fears. That is the sum of all my fears.
Listen, canon, his name is going to be Clancy Toms.
Oh.
THOMMS, Clancy Toms. We will never live it down, and we will never forget it.
Yeah, and Rovira's last name is Wade. That got Barker so good.
Oh my Rovira.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
That was a stupid.
Man, that was
When
good.
you guys said that, it definitely crossed my mind.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I guess we can do some sign-offs. If you find beautiful gentlemen, thank you guys. You were just great players and really took off with everything. Placed a lot of pieces in this game. And I had a prep video that I did. I'm going to share it. I'll probably share it in the next couple of days where I didn't over prep. I was like, this dude's going to show up and we're going to see what happens. And I think that works really well with this group. So awesome. Well, we'll go opposite this time. How about we start with Nate?
Yeah, so my name is Nate. It was a pleasure playing Garrick Brownleaf once again. You can find me on YouTube at WASD20 and lots of D&D related stuff. So yeah, passing it off to, I can't remember who was the next in reverse order.
Matt.
All right, it's me. I'm Matt. I run the channel A Fistful of Dice, and I also write RPG books over at absolutetabletop.com. I was playing Ep4 Seidler today. He's a magic-y, human-ish rogue that I really enjoy, and he's turning out to be probably one of my favorite characters that I've ever played. So very much enjoying the campaign. If you enjoyed the tone and the feel of Dragongrin, you should definitely go to absolutetabletop.com and pick up some Dragongrin books because they're awesome.
James.
I was going to say it's a 50-50 shot, but I don't remember either. Hey guys, I am James from Tabletop Terrors, half of the channel with Tim, as well as Absolute Tabletop. I was playing Rudy today, having a lot of fun being a sort of frail. We are level 2. I chose the illusionist path. I forgot what they called it, arcane tradition. So I'm excited to be all basically. Hankrin said it best earlier. He said Randolph the Grey. That's me. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I can't wait to have a scar or lingering injury from my first character going below 0 hit points. That was fun. So yeah, this was awesome.
And Barker.
Yeah, that was awesome, Tim. Thank you so much. This was a phenomenal session as usual. This one, someone said in the chat, Tim gets better every time, and I feel like it's hard. It must be difficult for you to get better every time because it really is that awesome. This session and the Crore game were the only 2 games that actually made me thirsty for the water that was being described to me by the GM. So that was perfect. I am Barker, and I run a channel called Be a Better Game Master, and the big use for it now is running a campaign called The Winds of Sur-Saline with James, Matt, Tim, and Cassie. And the one thing I want to plug is the next session is on March 24th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for now. But the big thing that I want to plug is the Be a Better Game Master Facebook page, because on that Facebook page, I have put a link to my prep notes for the game, which is probably going to be finished in about 3 to 5 sessions. It's going to be finished in a way where you don't have to catch up. And for anyone who's interested in seeing the chaos, the inner mad scientist inside of me manifest itself in prep notes, maybe that's your thing. So the Be a Better Game Master Facebook page is where you can hit that up and check out the notes and make fun of me. Thank you again for running the game, Tim.
No, thank you, man. And I am excited to play in the Winds. I'm excited to play in the next Provokers game. And I wanted so badly to read those notes because I'm like, I want to get in his head and see what he's doing. But it would be spoilers for me. So I didn't. But I did comment on it longingly. And I pushed the key like real slow, like.
I was going to say, like, you guys shouldn't look. You guys shouldn't look.
I super didn't. I wanted to. I was like, oh, wow. And then I thought, what am I? No.
Funny thing, I super opened it, and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I'm like, why the hell did he post this? There's no warning.
The big things I'm gonna keep as like code words and stuff for a while, so it's not gonna be too bad.
I did catch that. There was a line that was like, not what really. It was as though that was what threw me too. I was like, wait. Am I supposed to be reading this? Because this is a fake spoiler. Like, it was like, and then this fake person, like all caps, like some other name happened, or like it was like
said, this thing himself. Is powered. This thing is powered by you know what.
Exactly. And I was like, I think I'm not supposed to be here.
Ricky Gervais goes to clown college. It's like just
I'm surrounded. James is surrounded by caution tape, wondering where he is.
Yeah, I'm like, what is happening? What are all these what do all these signs mean?
Well, thank you all for watching. I think we still have like over 40 people watching at this point, which is amazing. I'm going to try something weird with this one. As soon as the video is over, I'm going to make it private. And you might be like, well, why are you going to do that? Well, just due to YouTube metrics, it's very difficult for people to sit down and watch a 4-hour game, but the bounce rated is about 20 minutes or so. So we're going to try this. I'm going to pull this down. In the next day or two, I'm going to slice it up into 20-minute pieces, and then I'm going to release them all at once. So you can still watch them all, but in pieces. So on your lunch break and stuff like that. And then we're also going to put the audio on Podbean and see how that works. But If it fails and everyone hates it, we won't do that again. But from what we've heard, people are excited about the concept of being able to catch up in small bursts and having a playlist of the whole game. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, how many times can I say anyway when we're playing a game? I love you all. You're Tabtarians. Thank you to the players. And until next time, may your dice roll high.